I got one.
I've got a lot of help.
And then I said, they
Take your
emailed
time,
the
Corey, because I'm having.
hotel receipt to, there's an email.
What are yours?
I'm even worse in person.
We know.
And they go hammer Barb for a while.
At least I don't have to.
Pretty
It'd
cat.
be
Go
better
ahead,
if I
I'll
could
catch
take
up.
his babies, but there's no.
Steve,
baby.
I'm ready.
All right. Good morning, everyone. If you'll rise and join me in the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the December 7th, 2023 board meeting. Pearl Harbor Day today, 82 years ago. So, we'll call the meeting, we got the meeting called to order. Public comment period. Is there anybody from the public wishing to comment this morning at this time? All right, I don't see anybody. December 7th board meeting agenda. Andrew, did we have any?
We do. We have two resolutions supporting an LRIP application for Litchfield Township, which will be added to the consent agenda. The documents in front of you on the table.
Yep, all right, all right, thank you. I'd look for a approval.
Mr. Chair, I so move that we amend today's agenda to include the Litchfield Township LRIP program grant application.
All right, I have a motion by Julie,
Second.
second by Commissioner Johnson. Is there any
So-
further?
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
I assume this is just, we're gonna handle the funding for, through pass-through, et cetera. Right, okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, consent agenda. Andrew, would you walk us through those items?
Be happy to.
please?
We have approval of the November 21st board meeting minutes. Approval of social services, county and hospital accounts payable. Approval of the 2024 commissioners meeting schedule. Approval of the 2024 off-highway vehicle safety grant. Approval of 2023-2024 snowmobile safety enforcement grant. Approval of 2024 federal supplemental boating safety equipment and aids grant contract. Approval of an agreement with Clifton Larson Allen for audit services. And then the approval of resolutions supporting Litchfield Township LRIP grant applications. That is the consent agenda.
All right, are there any questions on the consent agenda? I have one, just sharing, CLA, that's a 2-year commitment, right?
This, yeah, well, this contract goes from year to year, so this just shows what work they're going to be doing.
Oh, gotcha, all right.
And
Perfect.
on that, I also just wanted to note that we were able to negotiate cybersecurity language, cybersecurity insurance language in the contract, and that will be in the updated agreement that's signed.
All right, perfect. All right, any other questions on the consent agenda?
Mr. Chair, move to approve the consent agenda with the additional.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Johnson
Second,
and a second by Commissioner Bredesen. Is there any other questions on the consent agenda? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
There was a
Resolution.
Oh,
H, we added one as a resolution.
yeah, yep, all right. Corey, take a roll, please.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Schiefelbein,
Yes.
Commissioner Bredesen,
yes.
Commissioner Oberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt.
Yes. See, I knew everybody was gonna approve it anyway. All right, next item up is Sarah Vonderhaar. Vonderhaar, is that how, am I saying it right? All right. Pack for Families. Good morning.
Good morning. I am Sarah Vonderhaar. I'm the executive director at Pact for Families. This board was the first board that I actually attended last year before I started the executive director role. So I'm excited to be back here after a whole year being in service to Pact for Families. We've had an interesting year, a lot of changes, some new programs coming in, and with that change in leadership, of course, there's always the ups and downs within the organization that can be challenging, but I think overall we've done a lot to increase our membership We've really looked at some of the membership from the past and looked forward to who is missing from our table and how we can bring them back to the table and be active members at Pact for Families. So that's been exciting. We're also looking at our current initiatives as well as projects that we would like to do in the future to ensure that we can fill some of the gaps within our counties and communities. So working towards that. Today I really want to provide an overview of the highlights and the ongoing initiatives that continue to shape our shared vision. And you can also view our 2022 annual review on our website. We do have our annual meeting coming up in March where we'll have our 2023 review, and that will also be posted on our website following that. And by sharing the outcomes, we really hope to demonstrate the tangible benefits that we offer to our counties through the services that we provide and through the lives that we're changing within our 5-county region. I'd also really like to express my appreciation to your ongoing support, your guidance, and your partnership as we work to build our shared mission and strengthen and empower families and youth across our 5 counties. Your commitment to the well-being of our communities and our families has really helped to shape the impact that we have across the counties. I value your insights, your perspectives, and your feedback. So if you have questions as I'm going through my presentation, feel free to stop me and we can answer those as we go. Can I change slides here? Perfect. So. I like to start all of my presentations just by sharing a little bit about our mission, our vision, our values, because I think it's really important that we don't lose sight of those things. So our mission at Pact for Families is partners working together to strengthen families and support children in achieving their highest potential. Our vision is that Pact for Families will provide healthy, safe, and resilient communities where individuals and families and children care about and support each other, and we really do that by building partnerships that support the development of our innovative care models to enhance children's mental health needs and address those service gaps in the delivery system. We assure family voice is always heard. We like to, we do this through our Parent Advisory Committee that meets once a month. We have parents who have children in some of our services, but also parents throughout the communities just to share their voice and make sure that we're addressing the needs within our communities. We do focus on prevention and early intervention strategies, focusing on evidence-based strategies as much as possible to increase the positive outcomes within our communities, and we strive for accessibility and cultural equity within our communities too. Our programs really focus, we have 2 community liaisons for the Somali and for the Latino populations that we work very closely and make sure that our resources are available in multiple languages. We've done a lot of advertising over the past year to the Latino and the Somali populations through YouTube, or not YouTube, but Instagram and Facebook. On the radio, we've had some of our bilingual ads as well, and we really believe in continuous measurement and making sure that we're meeting the needs of our communities and reaching those outcomes and maintaining accountability. So some of the things that we like to talk about when we come to these things are how we're affecting your county. So in McLeod County, we have several discretionary grants that went, or sorry, I'm in Meeker County. I was in McLeod County last week. So we like to focus on some of the initiatives that have happened here within your county. And there were 4 discretionary grants that went out in 2023. We extended $700 to Tammy Minton at the Litchfield School for a Jumpstart Summer Learning Program. There was a $3,000 grant that was allocated to Brianna Meyer in collaboration with the Meeker area Partners in Prevention. They intended to use those funds for their scavenger hunt that you might be familiar with in your community. Ann Mahoney, also affiliated with the Litchfield Elementary School, received $700 to implement some social and emotional learning curriculum within her school. And then Meeker County, Tina Schenk also requested $5,000 grant to bring in someone to talk with her staff about the LGBTQIA and diversity and inclusion with her staff. And I think she was very excited to have that opportunity to bring that speaker in, I believe from New York, and share some insights and help her staff feel more comfortable in dealing with some of the things that they're dealing with that specific community. We also have a Talking is Teaching grant that is in the amount of $18,172 that is distributed to families through family toolkits, through the school districts, and through the nurse home visits program. So that's been an exciting project that has continued to go throughout all 5 of our counties. May is Mental Health Month is something that our LAC focuses on, and we worked this year on distributing some mental health information cards that were in different languages. So we, the year before, had done just English and then done a radio ad to promote mental health in May, and this year we decided to forego on the radio ad, but we did put out some more of those mental health cards in different languages to offer those resources and make sure that everyone has the opportunity to access those resources as well. Our ACES Coalition project is another one that we've been working on. A couple years ago, I think it was, we put out the calendar, the ACES calendar that we shared, and this year we're working on developing a Youth Connection magazine, which will go out to about 10,000 copies out to families across our 5-county service region, and it really focuses on some of the youth and activities that are happening in prevention throughout our 5 counties. So it'll have local content from local youth groups and different programs throughout the 5 counties. And it really focuses on helping parents to talk to their kids about substance use, raises awareness about mental health, and also just provides resources to help families really promote mental health within their own families. We do have our social worker positions that are funded through our LCTS program. And in Meeker County, we have Tammy Minton at the Litchfield schools. And the plan with the transition that we talked about last year a little bit was that for 2023, the total salary, the 25% of the total salary and benefits would be paid by PACT, and the additional 75 would be from the schools. And this year that we're transitioning the 23-24 to 15% will be paid by PACT and the rest by the schools. And the transition plan was for schools to eventually take on total employment of those school social workers. For the 24-25 school year, we are at a 10%, 90% difference. And we did discuss with the superintendents the possibility of staff staying on as PACT employees. So for the 24-25 school year, we do have a majority of our staff staying on as PACT employees, and us paying 10%. And then with the 25-26 school year, we will revisit that to see if school superintendents and their budgets will work with our salary scale and things like that. So that has been a big project over the past year to really heal that relationship between the schools when that transition took place. That was a kind of complicated and difficult conversation to have with our schools and our staff. So that has smoothed over rather well, I would say. Our Connecting Families and Family Liaison and Wraparound Services continue throughout our 5 counties. We do have a waiting list for Family Liaison Services. We recently hired a new wraparound coordinator who's been beginning to get in contact with the families that Shar previously worked with, because she has been with Pact for Families for 20-some years and has finally retired. So we have a new person in that role that is helping to get that up and off of the ground again. The Connecting Families also offers sensory movies for youth and families, for mostly families who have children who can't normally go to a movie. So what it provides an environment where there's no judgment. So the children are able to move around a little bit more during the movies, and the sound is down and the lights are up. So it's a little bit more of a gentle atmosphere for some of those kids with sensory issues.
Sarah, maybe you can explain how that has grown.
Yeah.
It started out and very few families were there, and now the attendance is.
Yeah, our last movie had over 100 people at it. So we did receive some funding through the Burrich Foundation to support movies in Hutchinson, and we just got another grant from SWIFT to offer another movie in Candy-Ojai County in New London. We don't have plans to expand that into other counties because we don't want to take away from those two counties, but we do have families from Meeker County attending either of those movies, so that's been nice. We do have a movie coming up in January, I believe, so you can get that information out. But it's a really nice opportunity for families to come together and really build that sense of belonging for some of those families who haven't had that opportunity in the past, so very good. And we also, through our Connecting Families, have the weighted blanket program, which has been very active lately. We've seen a lot of weighted blankets go out through our family liaisons, and we have a quilter in Wilmer who quilts for free. We just provide the fabric and the beads to make those blankets, so it's been a nice opportunity for families to access weighted blankets, which can sometimes be a little bit more expensive too, so. Our Partnership for Success grant doesn't really affect Meeker County, but I do like to talk a little bit about the work that we're doing in Yellow Medicine, Kandiyohi, and Yellow Medicine County, just because I know that you do have a coalition here. We're just really focusing on the marijuana legislation, of course, that has passed recently, and making sure that everybody understands the licensing processes and really the ramifications of that legislation on our youth and our families. So very busy with that program, trying to promote prevention and ensure that our kids are staying safe. Our GIA program is focused on the cultural efforts that we put in place across our counties, and like I said, we have a Latino and a Somali person in place for those services right now. That program funding is set to end on June 30th, so we are looking to find additional funding to support those programs and continue with our cultural work throughout the 5 counties. Our Journey to Independence program has kind of been our flagship program over the past 4 years. We are in year 4 of that 4-year grant. And that program provides transition services to youth who are 16 to 21 and who are diagnosed with a serious emotional disturbance or a serious mental illness. So what we do with those youth is build skills to help them transition into adulthood a little bit more successfully. We are very excited to say that we also, through additional funding through SAMHSA, have been able to extend that program to include kids with kids with disabilities. So we have been able to expand that program from 16 to 25 now, and we received a 5-year grant from SAMHSA that started in October for $650,000 annually for the next 5 years. So we're excited to be able to extend that program to all of our counties. And we do have 4 clients from Meeker County taking advantage of those services. So as we get staff in place with the new program, we do plan on extending additional services and promoting those transition services to longer and for more individuals. This is just some of our advertising that we've put out with the Journey to Independence program, and it really talks about how becoming an adult can be really overwhelming, but even more so for those youth and those kids who are struggling with emotional and mental health issues. So PACT can help. It talks about the challenges of transitioning from adolescence to adulthood, and just offers an opportunity to find out more about our program. We do offer our services and have staff that really provide a safe place for our youth to really learn those skills that they're struggling with no judgment. So this has been a good program and a good advertising campaign that has helped to increase our clients within that program. So we've seen an increase in our website activity for this program since we really started advertising, so it's been exciting to watch that. This is the new program, the Roads to Success program, which expanded those transition services to the age of 25. So the nice part about this is that we have several TAP programs that provide additional services to some of those same kids through the college. We provide educational services, help kids find housing, transportation, help build some of those skills. But once those kids age out of some of those high school programs at 22, then they can take advantage of those services with us here at PACT until the age of 25. So some of those kids aren't quite ready for that transition yet, so we were able to extend that a little bit more with this program. So as I close, I just really want to ask you all to help me build the collaboration that we have here at Pact for Families, because we know that alone we can do so little and together we can do so much more. So I would just encourage you to amplify your voice about the needs within your community so that we're aware of what needs to happen at Pact for Families to support the people of Meeker County. I really encourage each of you to engage with the collaborative with purpose and to share our programs and initiatives with people that you know within your communities. Embrace the innovation that we've created at Pact for Families and the innovative programs that we're utilizing right now, because they're, some of them may seem a little odd to people, but they're evidence-based and they really do work. Advocate for the impact that we're doing. Celebrate our little successes. Every little step makes a difference. Collaborate beyond boundaries. Share the information and join us at a collaborative meeting. Stay informed about what we're doing and inspire and be inspired by the work that we're doing. Thank you for your support.
Well, thank you, Sarah. Question for you, talk about community needs.
Yeah.
What are the top 2 or 3 or a couple items that are unique to Meeker County that you would say are kind of high level items that we need to be aware of in our own communities to assist with?
Sure. I think right now with the new program that we're running, we are working on doing a needs assessment. So it would be really helpful for people within Meeker County to take part in that needs assessment so we can really identify the individual needs of each of our counties. But I would say throughout our 5 counties, the biggest need that we have is for services for youth age 5 to 14 to help with behavioral and emotional disorders. There's not a whole lot of services that are available for those families. And we continue to look for services and supports for those families. The Family Liaison Program can offer support to some of the parents of those kids, but we do have a waiting list. Funding for the Family Liaisons Program has been challenging for us to get our hands on, so we are working on additional funding to support that program so that we can support more families. We would like to hire an additional family liaison, at least one, to help support the work that we're doing with that. But, children's mental health is always a struggle. We know that early intervention is very important. So the earlier we can get to those families and provide some parent education and some skill building opportunities for them, the better it will be for our educators as those kids come up into the school districts. We do hear a lot from our school districts saying that children are really struggling, and I think there's been an increase in some of those struggles since COVID, of course, so continuing to work on all of that.
How are people made aware of this needs assessment?
Well, we are going to be putting out an email later this week, and to all of the people on our collaborative email list. We have a list of about 624 people that goes out to every month.
Okay, because that age group 5 to 14, that would be our school district.
Yes.
How do you collaborate with the school district to?
We have a lot of educators on our list. Our school social workers help to promote our programs too. And so Tammy Minton here in Litchfield does a great job. She's been attending our full collaborative meetings pretty regularly now.
Because is your funding based on a needs assessment?
Yes.
I would think,
Yep, and
Okay.
the needs assessment that we're doing right now will focus more on that 16 to 25 age group, but after we finish that needs assessment, we do plan on doing a full needs assessment for the rest of the services that we provide, just so we can ensure that we're filling some of those gaps that exist. Because we can't fill everyone, but we can do our best to collaborate with our partners to ensure that some of those gaps get filled.
And maybe just to piggyback off Julie's question there, who are some of your partners, other than county commissioners
Sure.
that sit on your panel, but who are some of the other collaborative partners?
Yep, so we
Within
partner
the
with
schools,
schools,
yeah.
public health, social services, and we have community partners. We collaborate with mental health service providers like Woodland Centers, Greater Minnesota, Western Minnesota Family Health too, and we have partnered with all of the schools within our 5 counties. Let's see some of the other ones. I don't have the list right in front of me, but we have about 30 some partners that we're working with, and we're really working to expand that partnership. So if you think there's someone that should be at the table, we would love to have their names so that I can reach out, because we are sending out our partnership letters. I can't know everyone. Meeker County is probably one of the counties that I'm least familiar with because I am from Montevideo, so it's kind of it was a drive for me to get here this morning. But I am learning about the resources that you have in Meeker County, and I'm very excited to be working with the families here in Meeker.
And
Mr. Chair.
You also wanna remember that Sarah and her team, work so closely with Tina and Diane
Yes,
Winter
yes.
and our folks. And so Julie, when you ask about the word, it spreads.
It does.
So, but it's never complete. We're always looking for other ways to spread that word.
And I think over the years, Pact for Families has kind of fallen in the background, and we've been working very hard over the last year to make sure that we can come back up into the forefront of everyone's mind. We did some rebranding, as you may have noticed. Our Pact logo has changed, and so we're working on advertising and making sure that people really know who we are and what we do. So
But we're
Excited
really
to
not
be here.
Pact 4 anymore. We're Pact 5.
Pact for Families Collaborative.
Yes,
Yes.
so
yes.
that's kind of the.
Five
it used to
different
be four
counties.
5 counties.
and then we
Five now.
expanded
Pact
one.
Yeah.
number 4, yeah.
Yep.
4 counties, but
I see Pact 4 and the number 4 a lot still. So
Beth, you had a
I just
question?
got a couple quick questions. I'm always interested in results. Now we've had 5 years of partnership educating on vaping, tobacco use, marijuana use.
yeah.
Are we gonna see some of the results, what happened? Is adolescent use down, is teen use down? I always hear about the programs, but I never hear about results.
Sure. So we do the Minnesota or the Minnesota Student Survey goes out to students within all of our school districts. Some districts don't participate, and I don't actually remember what the participation rate was in Meeker County, but in our last survey, we did see a slight increase in vaping, and I think partly that is because kids were at home. They weren't at school. They had more access to things, and I think the Tobacco 21 laws worked to change some of that, but it is an epidemic.
I would agree, and so I always question, I'm not questioning your work, I'm just questioning if we're spending our money in the right places, because I see the kids doing the same thing I did 5-10 years ago, so I don't know what the answer is, but I would be interested in results. One other question is, you said you gave $5,000 to Meeker to fly someone in for New York to give
I'm
some
not sure if
training on
it was from New
diversity?
York. Yep.
It
So-
wasn't from
It
New York.
wasn't.
Okay, so my question
It
is
was in
simple,
Minnesota.
it's,
Oh, she
doesn't
was.
matter where
Okay.
it's from.
Sorry about that.
So when you spend that much money, I'm assuming other counties were invited in for the same training?
We did ask if we could have that open up to other communities and to our own PAC staff, but with that particular training, they wanted to be able to focus on some of the situations that they've had going on
so it was just
within Meeker County. So it was specific to Meeker County, but Tina did send in her review with that grant, and she was very impressed with the presentation and was very happy with the results of that. So we do plan to share that out so that other counties can possibly bring in the same speaker and have that
I
same
will be interested
opportunity.
in the results of this when you get the success of the substance abuse.
Yeah, and so within Meeker County, I believe you have your own
We do.
substance use.
We do.
So I think we worked a little bit with you, but not.
Feel like every
much
time
over
we
the
do a
last year.
community assessment, the issues are the same. And if it isn't getting fixed, I feel like we're not addressing.
Well, and I think this year, with the legislation that you will see a change in some of the needs that are happening within Meeker County as we will in all of the other counties because of the easy access that kids will have to those marijuana and edible products now. So it's a scary time for our kids and our families.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you, sir.
Thank you. You guys have a great day.
Brian Cruz.
Does not appear to be here, so I can take on this one. So,
Brian's not coming in today?
No? We,
they have a sheriff's conference going on right now, so
Oh.
I'll take over this. So we have received pricing for the microwave and radio paging system projects that we've talked about for quite some time. Originally we had planned to pay for these projects using American Rescue Plan dollars. However, the state has provided us, or will be providing us, with a one-time public safety aid, which we had included in the budget to cover these projects along with some other expenses. We're gonna get $588,000 in those funds. And so the sheriff's office went and solicited proposals for the different projects associated with this overall microwave and paging system upgrades. The quotes that we received are included on the screen. We got them from Granite Electronics and Ancom Communications. Granite Electronics was the low proposer, and at $527,000. It is over budget of what we had anticipated. We anticipated it being $400,000, but it did come in at $527,000. So, as I mentioned, we are receiving $588,000 from the state in this one-time public safety aid. We did anticipate using some of those other funds to cover the cost of handgun replacements in 2024, as well as some of the personnel costs associated with the work that we've done to be an attractive employer as we seek for new applicants. So it does put us in a spot where those aggregate expenses are about $32,000 over what we are receiving from the state, and so that money would need to come from our general fund balance, which we believe will be covered by offsets and expenses elsewhere throughout the year. So.
Mr. Chair, if I can ask a question.
Yeah.
So, what's the length of life on this? I'm always worried when we're buying electronic things that we're buying for today when everything's gonna change down the road. Of course, we don't know if it is or not.
Yeah.
But does this have expandability, or?
So as the RBA states, the current paging system is 25 years old, and we've been running into issues with it. Recently, be able to get adequate parts for it. I would anticipate we'd be able to get 20 years out of a new system. I believe the microwave system is about the same age.
Maybe I missed it, but is there a maintenance agreement with this?
There's
Or-
not a maintenance agreement. that I've
So,
seen.
nobody to work on them?
So we have, this is what we use our maintenance vendor to assist with, Randy Sealander. That's the work that he does, is working on this equipment.
So is this an apples to apples, because there's over $50,000 of difference there?
My understanding is that it is. The bulk of the difference is likely with labor, because the equipment cost is based on state pricing. So that's that last line on that you see on the state pricing for equipment at $119,000. It's the same on both because they're both working off the same state contract.
Mr. Ch-
Go ahead.
I'll move to, you're not ready for a mo- do you have
No,
one?
go ahead.
Move to
You're good.
approve all radio projects to Granite Electronics as follows. Project number 1, $168,808.52. Project number 2, $99,916. Project number 3, $139,097, and state pricing per equipment at $119,850.
I have a motion by Commissioner Olberg,
I was thinking that motion.
and I have a second by Commissioner Johnson. I just had a comment more than a question, but, Randy, they've been having difficulty patching the one that we have together. I mean, we're in an obsolete area, and.
Yep.
And so I know
Yeah,
this.
we've spent plenty on that.
And I know our old we're probably 2 years ago already that that 400,000 was an estimate a couple of years ago. So I mean, that's gonna be some of that disparity too because of inflation. So not that we like it, but
My microwave is 40 years old.
Mine was $100 out at Walmart.
Also not quite the same.
Okay.
They've really
We
gone.
wondered.
It doesn't shoot radio communication across the county.
Mine might, I
Might.
don't know. Yeah, got a great big honking dial on it. It's
You
pretty
still
snazzy.
got one of them
I
going?
Want to be
do.
careful when you use it.
it might interfere with the system when you turn it on. But
Probably.
could be the problem out in Harvey Township.
Oh, yeah.
Having-
When,
Harvey just glows out there.
No, I think that's a solicitation for Mark to buy you something for
yeah.
Christmas.
Guess what?
I can tell you're not married. You
Well,
don't
yeah.
buy your wife a microwave for Christmas.
One year I
My
got a
goodness.
washing machine. That was
Oh,
pretty
Lord.
good.
We're really off the subject here, Mr. Chair.
So
Sorry.
We-
If we ratify this today or approve it today, what's the anticipated installation?
It'll be next year. I don't recall off the top of my head what the sheriff had said that the lead time was on the equipment, but it's not within the next couple of months.
Yeah, I
It's around 6
had the
months.
conversation with him too one day, you're just I mean, within the last month, and he thought, you know, like March, April, you know, as weather. It's getting better, so. We do have a motion and a second. Any other questions?
Or side
Microwaves,
comments.
yeah. Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carried. All right. Now we're up to a public hearing for approval of proposed 2024 fee schedule.
Yes, so we have the fee schedule changes in the packet. We do need to conduct the public hearing on that, and then you would be able to consider adoption of the fee schedule.
All right.
So are we working on setting a date for a public hearing, or
You've already
Just-
set the
We
date.
already did that.
acceptance.
This is the public hearing.
This is the
this
public
is,
hearing.
this
So
is
do
it
we
right
need
now?
to have a
Okay.
motion to open a public hearing?
I believe that's the way we've typically, I was just quickly trying to look back and see how
Okay.
we've done it, but I believe that's quickly how we.
Mr. Chair, move to open the public hearing for approval, for discussion on the approval of the proposed 2024 fee schedule.
All right, a motion by Commissioner Johnson,
Second,
second by Commissioner Bredesen. Is there any further discussion on opening the public hearing? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? We have an open public hearing.
okay.
Anybody from the public wish to comment on our fee schedule?
Mr. Chair, hearing no discussion, move to close the public meeting.
Have a motion by Commissioner Johnson,
I'll second that.
and a second by Commissioner Bredesen to close the public hearing. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor to close public hearing, please say aye.
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 Motion, opposed? Motion carried. All right, fee schedule, any questions on that?
I just have one. I see we added, I think we added on a club license.
Yes.
What does that mean?
Oh. The club liquor license?
We added that on.
So we added a type of license that can be for like the Darwin Rod and Gun or Cedar Mills. And it's a one-time license fee annually, and then they can have club members only or bona fide guests. Instead of going with the 3-2, which was obsolete.
So this is what we're doing in lieu of that?
Correct, and both of them have been very happy with that. They will come back to the board and ask for a 1-4-day when they have those two larger events where they invite the public. But they can use the club license for themselves, bona fide guests, and they have to have a signage.
So will they be doing liquor then, or? And they won't
They
need,
can do strong beer, both of
so
them.
they won't, well, there is no 3-2 anymore, but so they won't be coming in and applying for any of those licenses
No,
anymore?
they won't go for the 3-2 liquor because like you said, it's
Right,
really
right.
hard to find and not the brand that people wanna drink.
Right, right.
But with the club, they can do strong beer, which is what both of them are
Okay, yep.
requesting to do. And then when they have their fish fry in Darwin or their, fish pork
Smell
chop,
fry, yeah.
smell fry, they will come for a 1-4
Okay.
liquor. Just like, like the Legion
All right,
has done
good.
a number of times.
So they come for a temporary on the special events. All right, so you've just changed that over. Well, that was a good answer.
It was much easier to do that for them than to have some kind of a cater license. for-
Absolutely, I think that was very innovative. Thank you.
So the club license then includes setups, like,
They can have a
Or
choice.
is that
of
separate?
They have a lot of variety.
Very good.
All right. Any other questions on the proposal of the fee schedule? Hearing none, do we need to, no. This will be a voice vote,
Yes.
majority vote. All in favor of the
Do,
We
we
need
have
a
to-
motion.
oh,
Mr.
we don't
Chair,
have a motion, that's right, we just closed.
Mr. Chair, I so move to approve the 2024 fee schedule as presented.
All right, there we go. Thank you, Julie.
You're welcome.
I'll second it.
And a second by Commissioner Olberg. Now, any further discussion on the on the fee schedule? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. All right. Thank you. Next item up, Randy Fortis and Matt Lanigan. XL Energy.
Hey everyone, good to see you again.
How we doing?
Doing well. Hope it's kind of waved at a couple of you on Tuesday at the Association of Minnesota Counties meeting. It seemed like a good conference, and Commissioner Bredesen, I assume that your microwave is in a mana radar range where my grandfather worked his entire career, and those things will last well beyond all of us.
We have an appliance fellow here in town, and he was out at my house for a meeting a couple months ago, and he walked into the kitchen and he went, oh, and he just hugged my big old, microwave. How long have you had this? And I said, well, I bought it with wedding money, so I know it's 40 years old.
My grandfather would be proud.
Yeah,
Lived and breathed a mana.
thank you.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, thanks for inviting us again. We'll walk through some of the details on the presentation. We've spoken so many times that I don't want to kind of go into details about the need for the project. I think that's pretty well understood, but Matt and I are happy to answer any questions about the routes that were proposed in October, the upcoming regulatory schedule, and then what's kind of we're looking at schedule-wise moving forward over the next couple of years as that's reviewed. Just as a quick reminder, this is a proposed double circuit, 345 kilovolt transmission line. Overall, the mileage will run about 175 miles between the retiring Sherco power plants near Becker and the substation point in Garvin, or outside of Garvin, Minnesota, in Lyon County. The wind energy, mostly wind, other renewables could connect to it as well. Located in southwest Minnesota, will replace the coal-fired energy after the Sherco units are retired over the next 7 years, the first unit being retired by the end of this year. The key to this project, as a reminder, is that we really need to reuse the existing grid connection at Sherco, which then connects into the transmission system that serves our customers and really all electric customers throughout the state, as it is a regionally operated grid.
So the pole in the picture is the type that will be spread across the state
Correct.
then? There
Yes.
aren't gonna have these wires coming down or 4 pillar posts?
Correct,
This-
Mr.
the
Chair,
one in the
Commissioner.
picture
Correct,
is-
single pole structures, for the most part, there could be some changes depending on if they're, angled turns
Corners
or
and-
specialty
okay.
structures and things like that. But the vast majority would be single pole structures, 120 to 140 feet tall, about an 8-foot concrete base, can generally farm right up to, or do any activity right up to the base of the pole, with some restrictions in the easement that are mainly limited to no new structures and no tall growth trees within the 150-foot easement, 75 feet on either side of the center of that pole.
Okay, thank you.
So if I may ask, you've got approximately 175 miles. Are the two routes almost the same in mileage, or is there a difference in those two routes in mileage?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner, yes, I believe one route, the purple route, is about 171 miles. The blue route on the screen there is 174. Pretty close.
Going back to about a year ago when we first started speaking to people about this project, we held a virtual open house just over a year ago in November of 2022, presented initial corridors to landowners throughout the project area early this year, February and March, revised routes, kind of narrowed down what Matt would call the spaghetti bowl versus routes, as there were so many throughout the entire project area, and then reviewed all of the comments that we received from all constituents who either attended, wrote in, submitted comments through the website, email, things like that. More than 750 individual comments were tracked as Matt and his team did their work. Also met with county governments, township governments, state agencies, and others that can and should provide input into projects like this, culminating with the route permit application filing on October 30th of this year. Following that notice, we mailed official notices to all landowners within 1 mile, I believe, of the route proposals, and then also sent mailings out to all of the landowners that we communicated with earlier this year, just letting them know we've filed the application, here are the next steps. And one thing that we noted to people in that letter, and then that I've also told people when they've called in and asked questions about the routes, is even if landowners aren't on one of the routes that we've proposed, continue to pay attention to your mail. During the upcoming processes, additional routes or route segments can be suggested during the environmental impact statement scoping meetings or process that will kick off early next year. Always want to make sure that people, don't just kind of throw mail away if they see something from the Department of Commerce or Public Utilities Commission, and then find out, after the decisions have been made, that their property could be impacted. So we'll get kind of into those details in a moment, but kind of walked through this a moment ago. Some of the things that we look at are for potential route options, some sort of existing corridor, whether it's existing transmission lines, roads, field or section lines, and then use that information to develop the route options in the application while meeting some pretty specific state requirements. And Matt, do you want to talk a little bit more about the regulatory process, particularly what we're looking at moving forward?
Thank you, Randy. Yes, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, and maybe before I get to this, I thought I might speak a little bit specifically about Meeker County, how your communities have participated in the activities that Randy described right there. One thing we did is before we submitted the application, we put out a notice that we intended to submit an application and asked local government units if they were interested in us coming out to present, talk about the project, give a lot of the information that we're going to describe today to them. And wanted you to know that your community has really participated in that. We've met with the city of Eden Valley, city of Watkins, Manana Township, Harvey Township, amongst others, and got some really good feedback, I think, from those communities, as well as it was a good opportunity for us to speak about some of this information, how they can continue to participate in the project development. So I know also it was very helpful, the board provided a letter in terms of what the priorities for Meeker County were along with this transmission line. And we heard loud and clear that we should stay, outside of city development or expansion areas. We heard that where we can, we should be following major roadways, and that impacts to agriculture were very, very important. And so to limit those impacts. I do note that there was a suggestion in the letter that asked us to evaluate using state land for some of the right-of-way. And while that's one that we have not proposed along this, we do border state land in some of the areas within Meeker County. But I do think that we've identified routes and have proposed routes that do follow roadways, that do follow field lines where we're not following a roadway, and that we have successfully made some shifts that are in response to not only the county board's letter, but those meetings with communities. So for instance, Eden Valley, we had a route going pretty close to their southern expansion border, and we were able to shift that another, half mile to the south there. Eden Valley probably does not want us anywhere near that, but we were at least able to move out of the area that they foresee expanding sometime in the relatively near future. So just an example of how we have benefited. I think the project has been made better by that public involvement. So all that said, we can get back to the regulatory process and the next steps. We will need, as a reminder, 2 approvals from the Public Utilities Commission. One is a certificate of need. Another is a route permit. The Public Utilities Commission has combined those 2 proceedings into one. So when they come out and host public meetings, public hearings, both of those approvals will be the subject of those meetings. So folks can comment on the need and the route, or just the need or just the route, but they have combined that review. Those meetings will begin with environmental impact scoping meetings, and we're anticipating that those will be held in late January. Those will be held in the project, throughout the project area. So we want to find locations that are convenient to folks that are affected by projects. We anticipate Litchfield being one area, Wilmer being another, Kimball hopefully another as well. So some of the areas nearby that we hope that the state will schedule meetings in. Importantly, that environmental impact scoping those meetings, here's what the state is gonna ask. They're gonna ask, what are the issues that we should evaluate? What's important to the communities that you wanna make sure that we study so that we can compare the two routes that have been proposed in this application? And therefore, understand the impacts of each route, because the state ultimately is looking to approve the least impactful of these routes. And so they want to know from people, that's individual landowners, local government units, state and federal agencies, tribal governments, what are the issues we should study in that environmental impact statement? Secondly, and importantly, and this is a piece that is a bit unique to in the nation in terms of the Minnesota process, they are going to ask, are there routes or even route segments beyond what Xcel Energy has proposed that we should consider for approval? So if there's a route segment that is less impactful, or even an entire route that's less impactful than what we've proposed, that can be proposed again by individual landowners, local governments, really anybody. And the state can take those and include those for consideration in the environmental impact statement, and ultimately even approve that as a route. So that is what we've been trying to get the word out to folks, and please, as your constituents contact you, let them know that this is their opportunity to include routes that may be less impactful than what we proposed as the applicant.
Question, how
Yes,
many
please.
times does that actually come to happen? Where you have two proposed routes and then someone else, an individual or a town or whatever, decide that this is an alternative route that you actually use? Is that just talk, or does that actually come through? Because, what we had was 3 routes, you condensed it down to 2, which I'm assuming those are the 2 routes you were planning on anyway because of the Hutchinson location, and you moved the one incrementally a half a mile. Did all these other chatter, the 750 comments, really change the route at all, other than the Ean Valley impact?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner, yes. Well, that was a two-part question. First part is absolutely. There are other routes that have been proposed in proceedings have been approved that are above and beyond, or other than the applicant has applied for. Absolutely. I've been involved in projects like that. And I'm aware of other projects that, yes, absolutely. So that's just, it's not to put words in your mouth, but that's not lip service. That's real. If there's a better route, they'll evaluate it and it can be approved. Absolutely. And then secondly, yes, we have made many, over the course of 175 miles, maybe I would call them tweaks, but yeah, absolutely. We have made changes based on comments that came in during that pre-application outreach phase where we made shifts. There are 2 that I can think of in Harvey Township, for instance, that were made based strictly on comments saying there's a better route this way. It's less impactful than this. So we've made shifts. Yes.
And Commissioner, or Mr. Chair and Commissioner, if I could add on one note about the alternate route suggestions, they do need to be fairly specific. Can't just say, go along, whatever highway else. It needs to be, the state will require a point A to point B. So if we're along County Road A and someone thinks County Road B is a better option, they would need to say, from this point, follow this route back to that point. Obviously, we don't expect people to propose a complete, 175-mile alternate. But if people do have suggestions for specific township locations, county locations, they do need to be fairly specific during that scoping process to get into to get it into the scoping review.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Absolutely.
I think it's important to kind of flesh this out a little bit further too, is what kind of data would need to be provided for an alternate route I ask that because I'm concerned about an individual landowner, as you note in the letter that we sent, that it's a grave concern for agriculture. And so if you have a Meeker County farmer submitting an alternate route versus a group of individuals who hire a great law firm out of St. Cloud, you know, how are those competing interests when you have a landowner, a farmer, who has the actual interest in their land being affected versus someone who's being represented by a legal counsel?
That's an excellent question. Thanks, Mr. Chair. And here's what I'd say is that routes are considered on equal footing, no matter where they come from. They do, Randy is right, they do have to be specific. It'll be helpful to have a map, basically, that will accompany that. There's a line on there. But it's really on the merits of the route. It's on the what the impacts are associated with the route and whether whether that would be a less impactful route than what we have proposed. Now, in terms of unpacking it and kind of the mechanics of how does that happen, there's a couple different ways. So during these scoping meetings that'll be in the project area, we'll have mapping, we'll have GIS stations, mapping resources where folks can sit down with us and we can help them draw a line on a map, print that map, and they can submit that with their comments. However, if that person is not available to attend one of those in-person meetings, there's gonna be a comment period, a written comment period that follows those. It'll open before, the written comment period will be open before the public scoping meetings, and it'll be open until, like a couple weeks after the scoping meetings are held. So that a person who wants to write in comments and isn't available to attend the in-person meeting, if they're able to print a map off of our website and draw a line on that to accompany their comments, I think that would be probably maybe the easiest way for them to do that. They could certainly call the state and ask for assistance with that. They could call us and ask for assistance with the mapping if they've got a route to suggest. But it will really be on the merits of not rather if it's a 30-person group proposing it or an individual landowner. It's on the merits of the route alternative.
During that public hearing that we had down in the basement, you had mentioned that Excel was possibly doing a substation that would impact about 40 acres or something along the route, possibly Meeker, possibly Renville, I think were the two alternatives. I've heard that Excel is in the possibility of purchasing 3,500 acres in Renville and also an additional acreage in western Meeker. What is that proposal about? Is what we've heard that through the county.
Mr. Chair and Commissioner, we've got a couple of different proposals. One, I think if we have the map.
Because that's a lot different than the 40 acres that was suggested to the public, which when I look at it, I'm like going, well, what are these additional acres for?
Sure, they're kind of two two-part question,
Yep.
like the last one. One,
I like to do that.
we're happy to answer as many parts as you have.
Yeah.
Actually, I can even go in a little bit deeper there. So we are looking for a voltage support substation in the 60 to 80 mile range west of the Sherco plant, and then another one on the southern end southwestern end near the Lyon County endpoint. Those are technical issues to support, provide voltage support and stability, which is important. Usually, or in the past, that's been created by the spinning mass from a generating turbine. Because of the difference in how we'll operate our system as we move to more renewable energy, particularly with this project, we need to provide that voltage support along the line. So we are looking in Meeker County and Candy Ojai County potentially for locations for about a 40-acre parcel to build a substation on to then connect into the project. We wanted to make sure that we identified the best routes before we started talking to landowners and then kind of targeted that point. So that's the question, the answer to the first part of the question. The second is that there are parts of the company that are looking for additional solar leases that could connect into that substation. That kind of happens. The energy supply is in essentially a different part of the company than the transmission development side. There's some federal regulations that go along with that separation. But if the energy supply department is able to identify landowners who do want to lease their property for solar, then they could try to put a project together. It would be submitted to the state's Public Utilities Commission as part of an RFP process. We would have to bid in any project that is self-developed, similar to any other kind of independent power producer developing a land or developing project.
So you talking leasing or purchasing?
For
Because I
the
always heard
solar,
purchasing.
for the solar, I believe it would be leased land.
And
a
what would be
long-term lease.
alternative that would be for purchasing then?
The substation,
Just
we
the
would want
40
to
acres.
purchase the 40 to 80 acre parcel.
Okay. Cause it's, kinda important to know that because, being landowners, when you have a big company like that, deciding those big tank of parcels to jack up the price of rent, it's very hard for agriculture to compete in terms of those environment. And that was never brought up, that was never suggested in that original meeting, which I find a little, being a landowner, a little offensive. That it was only thought about the 40 acres, which we all assume there might be something like that going on. But I thought that would have been a little more open discussion about that.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioner, I think, when we have presented both at the open houses and at the meetings that we've had here, we've discussed the transmission line route. That's been the biggest part of it. The solar development happens at a different part of the company in the energy supply. We're not always aware of kind of what they're doing. Kind of came along, almost concurrently. But what Matt and I have been focusing on, and our team has really been trying to identify the best route for a project.
Right.
Is that land gonna be contiguous or?
Not necessarily. Solar farms don't always have to be contiguous, no.
I have a question for the connector routes there in the yellow. Are those routes is that like an option to jump from one route to the other? Is that what that identifies on the map?
Mr. Chair, correct. Yeah, that allows some
Either or,
mixing
either or type.
mixing and matching, if you will. Yes, sir.
But those yellow lines, so they could jump route from one route to the next is what that means.
Purple to blue or vice versa.
Gotcha.
And I think, we're certainly interested in the board. These are really good questions. Just talking about next steps in that public review process, after those public information scoping meetings, the state will write its environmental impact statement on the two routes that we proposed, the connector routes, and any routes that get scoped in from the public. And then they'll conduct, an administrative law judge will conduct public hearings. Those also will be out in the project area. We're anticipating those to be scheduled late summer or fall of 2024. And then we would still be, anticipate being on track to have a decision on the route permit and certificate of need in early 2025. Construction would begin later that year. Maybe I'm jumping ahead to the schedule slide now. Construction would start later in 2025, and the project would be expected to be in service in late 2027. So just wanted to confirm that we're still anticipating that, I think roughly the same schedule that we had described when we last met. And then certainly this is the schedule we've been sharing with your communities as we've met with them.
So when is the actual route gonna be decided then? I might have missed that, I'm sorry.
Early 2025, I think maybe.
Early 2025 is when the two routes will decided to be the one, whether it's connecting, whether, et
That's
cetera,
what
et
we
cetera.
expect, yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
Mr. Chair and Commissioner, the Public Utilities Commission will set a schedule, and so we'll have a better idea of that probably late this year or early next year of when those dates would be expected.
Gotcha.
It's already late this year.
That's true.
Yeah, I know.
True.
We're running out of real estate.
Yeah.
Maybe one more slide, Randy, and just,
Yeah, just
oh, sorry.
a couple of things about the easement acquisition process. You know, when a final route's determined, we'll negotiate easements with landowners. You know, taking into account some of the direct issues associated with their property, the amount of length of an easement on their property, how land use is, what kind of land use it is. Obviously, in this area, it's mostly agriculture. What the easement provides is the ability for us to build, operate, and maintain the transmission line. That easement is 150 feet, or the right-of-way is 150 feet total, 75 feet on either side of the center line of the pole. And from a maintenance perspective, really pretty minimal. We'll do continuous, ongoing inspections. A lot of time that's done by air, so minimal after the line is in operation as to access needed to property unless, something happens and insulators need to be fixed or something along those lines. And then the landowner retains ownership. And of note, there are some people who just do not want to live or operate on a property with a power line, a new power line, and they can elect to have the utility purchase the entire contiguous parcel. And we've done that on other projects as well. And from a construction standpoint, when we start that, we'll do an initial kind of survey and geotechnical work, do some boring, see what kind of soil and ground we're really dealing with on each segment of the property. Concrete foundations are installed. They tend to be about 40 feet deep or so. Rebar cage placed in the hole, filled with concrete, anchor bolts put on top of that, and then we erect the single pole structure on top of that. The stringing is often done with helicopters now. We'll have ground-based equipment placed somewhere. They'll pull what's called lead line rope through and then pull the conductor back through kind of on a pulley system or a spool system on either side of the poles or on either side of the location.
Are they metal or
Yes.
wood,
The structures
the pole?
are metal, yes.
They're metal.
Yeah, Core 10 steel is what they're called. So self-weathering, rust-colored that you see along the Brookings area or down towards Rochester, not the galvanized style that you see along I-94.
How deep did you say the?
40 feet deep? Does that sound right, Matt?
Yeah, it's gonna be at least 20 feet deep is typical, and then depending on the substrate, it could be more than that, yeah.
Mr. Chair, I just wanna go back to one thing, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, but if you have a selected route, you said you negotiate with the individual landowner. What happens when they don't wanna negotiate?
Sure. Mr. Chair, Commissioner, we think we have a pretty good track record of coming to negotiate agreements with landowners. On the CapEx 2020 projects overall, more than 80% of easements were negotiated. We live and work in this state, and we've been here for a century. We plan on working here for another century. So we know that we have to make a good faith effort to negotiate with landowners. There are gonna be times where we just can't come to an agreement, and we get that. And the state understands that, which is why they allow for eminent domain for infrastructure projects like this. We consider that a last resort. We're gonna make good faith efforts to negotiate with landowners. We're not just gonna come in with one letter and then go straight to the courthouse. We're gonna make a good effort to find a path forward for each property.
Have they determined a payment, a pole compensation? If I have 3 poles going across my farm, will each pole be a compensated situation?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Bredesen, I don't know if it's a per pole. It's generally, we'll figure out the length of an easement on a property, times that, times the acreage, do market assessments to find out what local land values are going for, and then start the negotiation process from there.
Is the easement an annual payment or a one-time?
It's a one-time payment, but landowners can request that is extended over a several-year period.
Is there any income generated from the poles to the townships? Will the township benefit from any of this?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, you'd have to talk to the tax department from that and see how they're assessed, the county tax department, or how they're assessed. We've asked, and they can be taxed as industrial property, but that can vary from county to county.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to follow up on buy the land or buy
Buy
the
the farm.
farm. Yeah, buy the farm concept. say you buy 40 acres, what do you do with the remaining acreage as Excel?
Mr. Chair, Ms. Brederson, or Ms. Shipland, I apologize. We tend to sell it back at fee value. Just it needs to be an arm's length transaction, so we would hire a real estate firm to manage that sale.
So then the public would then be able to purchase this land back?
Yes, anyone could.
So this wouldn't be land that you would consider keeping for one of your solar farms?
Not necessarily, that I will never say never, but in past projects, I think is the best way to frame it, we've generally sold the parcel back at a real estate transaction.
Even though a pole has a 75-foot berth on each side, if it's on my 80 acres, I can farm up to it within what distance?
Mr. Chair, Madam Commissioner, generally right up to the structure, maybe a few feet away, because obviously equipment will need to go around it. But generally the only restrictions on easements are no new structures and no tall growth trees. And to extend on that a little bit, let's say we do need to bring equipment out to maintain the line at some point, we'll compensate the landowners for crop damages that occur. If it's, 5 years from now, we need to fix something or repair something, and we need to bring equipment out that damages crops, we'll pay for that crop loss.
Okay, thank you.
And those are the kind of things that are written into the easement itself. All right. Any other questions, please let us know. Andrew obviously has our contact information, and of course, on the website as well, and there's our phone number that goes to, phone number and email goes to my desk and Matt's desk, so we're able to get back to people within a day or so normally. In terms of next steps, we think it'll be the late January when those scoping meetings are scheduled, and those notifications will come from the Public Utilities Commission and Department of Commerce staff, but we'll make sure, we'll include the local government list that we've been using, so you'll receive those when those meetings are scheduled.
So that was gonna be my question. So that information will be mailed basically to the same landowners, so people can look for the same folks that been getting your correspondence will be getting this correspondence
Yes, absolutely.
utility.
And we'll advertise in local papers, kind of the same way that we did the open houses too.
Okay.
I'm curious what the two changes in Harvey Township were that were generated by landowner input. I'm curious what those ended up to be.
I could, if you would like, Mr. Chair, Madam Commissioner, if you'd like, I could provide a map of that. I could email that to Andrew and show where those changes were.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Could you possibly, would you be able to give us a map of any changes in Meeker County?
Yeah,
As long as,
As long as we're at it.
Mr. Chair, it's yes, first of all, and and then secondly, something that we did, we met with Renville County last month, and what we provided them was a map of the alternatives that we had looked at, even going back to last February. So maybe if the county liked some of those routes that were eliminated from consideration or did not make the application, you would have that in hand to, propose that during the scoping period, for instance. So maybe that would accomplish
Sure.
both of the objectives here.
by noon.
Oh, wait. Okay, but thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions? All right, we appreciate you coming in today.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks.
Thank you.
All right.
Very good.
Greg, is Monica today? Is that that's what we got going? All right.
Oh, no.
Mr. Chair, I'm just gonna grab a cup of coffee. I need a.
Yep, all right. Sounds good.
That would maybe be a good idea.
We got a break coming up here.
Oh, we do, okay.
In a few minutes, so.
Okay.
South Fork, is
Thank
this
you.
you? Paul? Is this you?
Oh, yes, this is we made the Hutchinson leader in a big way.
All right, Monica, we're gonna let you take over.
I do not
work with this at all. I'm strictly here just to be.
You're the messenger.
Yes, I have not worked on this at all, but Greg said that Paul.
Okay, Paul,
So
you
we're at the
got it,
point
or-
now where we just have a plan. No money's been spent, no money's been encumbered other than to create the plan, which Houston Engineering and the technical committee and so forth has worked on. We had a public hearing not this past Monday, the Monday before that, and took public comment. And now we're at the point where we would like to submit the plan to Bowser for approval. And that is the resolution that is before you today.
Brandy, have you looked at this?
No, I have not.
Okay. I have multiple questions as I read through this. I read words like replace, amend, control, conform, submit, notify people after adoption. All of those are red flags for me. I fear that, are we giving up control of something here? I just had a lot of red flags going up with all of that wording, and it's full of amend, control, conform, submit, and actually notify people after adoption. That one set me back in my chair. So those are some of my issues. Could we address those, please?
I'm looking at the, resolution, and you had a public hearing. So I take it the public had the opportunity to
Yes.
be
And so-
involved and comment, and as I read through the resolution here.
So if I may, the new requirement through Bowser, which is at the state level, is that each watershed district and the agencies around it have to come up with a one watershed, one plan. So no longer can each county, watershed district, soil and water kind of operate on their own in order to get funding, because before the funding streams were going to the local agencies or the soil and water for each local. However, the state has now changed that. In order for the funding stream to be sent, it has to go through a one watershed, one plan, and then through that collaborative, then it gets sent out to the different locations. And so they're requiring that all of these agencies work together to figure out what is their plan, what is their strategic process, who's gonna be in control of the finances, who's gonna be in control of the liability, how are you gonna operate? And so from there, then they create this plan saying, what are you gonna do for the next year? They'll get the funding through that, and then they can work with the agency partners in this one watershed, one plan. So no longer is it just Meeker County Soil and Water and any
North Fork
watershed
or-
district, yes,
yeah.
yes, able to determine where the funding is gonna go and how they wanna do their projects, they have to work with other agencies.
But will each county then, I'm concerned about equal representation. Is there still a voice? Do we
Yes.
still have?
So each partner agency that's involved in this has a seat on the governance
The board?
board,
Okay.
right? So, and that's governed by a memorandum of agreement, which we approved, in 2021.
Okay.
We have memorandums of agreement for each of the different watersheds that are going through this process. Some of them are further along than others. This one is at the point now of having completed the draft plan and is looking to submit it to the state. As our county attorney noted, the intent here is, rather than having each individual county have its own watershed plan, which has impacts on, this watershed, which only a small portion of is in our county, and there's maybe some broader work that needs to be done elsewhere. Rather than doing it that way, it creates collaboration and partnership amongst, to deal with issues that are specific to that watershed, right? Specific to the South Fork in this example. So the governance structure that's in place allows us to ensure that there is still representation from the areas that are affected by this. We have a county commissioner who sits on that board. We have soil and water who sits on that board. And then Greg is involved with it as well. And Greg's involved with each of the different districts that occur. So, it's different than the way that it's been done in the past, but it's a process that's been moving forward for probably 5 years now, at least. And we've had, others go past this point already, so.
I would be more comfortable if there were words like cooperation, collaboration,
And you will find that in the memorandum of agreements.
because
Because what we're not talking about that piece of it. We're talking about the work that collaborative has already done to develop a plan and then submit the plan to the state.
And the other thing you wanna remember is the projects that are done are voluntary.
Yes.
They're not forced down any individual landowner's throat. It is voluntary. It's an opportunity for them to get assistance to fix something that maybe they couldn't have afforded to do themselves.
And an opportunity for us to have a voice.
Voice in it, yes.
Because I know we had this discussion 4 or 5 years ago, Brandy, maybe, and it just keeps changing. Right.
And I look at, Danny's on the North Fork. I believe North Fork has already done 164 projects.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot before I even,
Yeah, before you even got
Yeah.
involved.
yeah, that was probably the first one watershed, one plan that Meeker probably was part of, I'd imagine.
It was the first that we participated through all the way. Middle Fork is in the process, South Fork, Mississippi, and there's another one that I can't think of. Sauk, which I don't
I
believe
don't
that
know.
Sauk, we have such a
think
small portion of Sauk that we originally didn't participate, but we had to join in later because we need to have watershed plans that cover the entire county.
But it's a good point that you put up. It's all volunteerism as far as landowner. This is talking about the collaboration of these counties putting together and trying to devise a plan. And then your representation is to help support a landowner that maybe say, hey, I wanna be part of this. This is what I would like to see. And then whether they can get the funding to do it or not.
And it's year-to-year funding.
Year
So
to year.
basically, this plan is developing an over, the financial structure, if you will, to a degree, of workload and who gets funded this year and who has to wait a
Yep.
year, or, I mean, that's more.
And it
what-
changes annually, right?
And then all the players in the game, whether it be, soil and water, or the county, or watershed, whoever, they're all under the same umbrella, but they have to work together to prioritize projects and.
are our ditch
fund
systems
projects.
involved with this as well?
Ditch systems are not
I've
really.
never come across anything in terms of that.
Tony.
By having one
Yeah.
watershed,
No.
one plan, somebody's not doing something that's gonna have an adverse effect on somebody else. That kinda is the conceptual thing. Now, the other thing is, I spoke about how many North Fork has done. But over the years, they have so much money now, the average project was about $7,000, I think. But they have enough money to do another 400 projects. There. So, and then you ask where the money comes from.
Yeah.
It is, I hate to say this because I'm not positive it's 0.38% of the sales tax. It's a very small portion of the sales tax that is being claimed, and we're using our own money. We're finally getting some of the money that our folks have paid and purchases and so forth.
Sales
back to them.
tax
Yes.
is involved with this.
And South Fork has Carver, Wright, McLeod, Renville, Meeker, the city of Hutchinson. Yeah, you can
Sibley.
kind of see that. It's a little broad
Yeah, that's a
there,
good
and
example
Candy,
right
Ohio.
there.
And in each one of the counties, the soil and water is involved. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
But when I started to read through this, just, reading through the resolution, and I'm going, whoa, the language was very submissive. I'm giving up, I'm replacing control, conform, submit. I thought,
I'd read the
Question that.
resolution,
I did. I did.
itself.
Yep,
I think that kind of language that ship has already sailed in the memorandum of agreement. I think some of this language was maybe just left over from some of the other RBAs, and so I don't think I would be alarmed by the way that the language is drafted, because essentially at this point, it's just that the one watershed, one plan came up with projects, I'm assuming, is it based on the projects that they came up with?
Priorities. We don't have projects yet. We have priorities that we will be looking for. That's the first stage. We're really in the infant stage of one water plan. I mean, I think that's safe to say.
Sure.
'Cause we have no specific projects planned or outlined at this time. We set priorities. You had priorities in North Fork. Okay, these are the things that we feel this watershed area needs to address first.
Cause it just, once you give something up, you know, if you give up control, you submit to their requests, you conform, you replace. It's pretty tough to
Well,
get
just for
back.
example, Mississippi, we are such a small percentage of the Mississippi watershed plan, and we have a voice in there for commissioner, for watershed, and for soil and water. And we're a small part of it. So we actually have more control than we should, to be honest, more say,
Good way to put it.
And I can
as
tell
far
you-
as policy goes.
And we've been drafting that policy for the Mississippi River. We just had a meeting scheduled, I think, 2 weeks ago, and they're really taking into consideration Meeker County's position on that, even though we do have that small percentage of ownership in that one watershed, one plan.
I just wanted to
district.
make certain that we were all on board with this concept and that we had representation. We don't want to lose that,
So what
And
would the
remember
alternative
key
be?
word, it is voluntary.
voluntary.
Usually the problem is of all these plans is trying to solicit volunteerism to use the funds.
Yeah.
That's the biggest problem. That's why Paul said there's a huge amount of money yet that Bowser has for these projects, but, you know, us farmers don't wanna have them monkey around, cause we don't know what's going on. And they're trying to sell the landowner on these projects, is a lot of time is what it is. Some of it's merited, some of it's probably not.
Okay.
So, to be clear, there's currently a memorandum of agreement that is between all of the collaboratives that are working on this one watershed, one plan. So it already structures the control and operations of how things are gonna be handled. Then you need to adopt a plan throughout the whole one watershed, one plan group. So that's what this is, in order for, and so what they're talking about is figuring out their priorities. Those priorities then have to be shared with the public, so those are the public hearings, so then landowners can say, well, that's not really a priority, you should be looking over at this stream or river, whatever it may be. And so then that's taken into consideration, that input is then developed into the plan. And in order for the funding to come, you need to submit this plan to Bowser. And yes, is there final control authority? Yes, but I mean, they're pretty much gonna rubber stamp saying, well, you've proven that these projects are appropriate, your priorities are appropriate, so here's your funding. Now you can disperse it amongst your group.
As long as we have a seat at the table,
We do,
Yep.
A few of them.
yes,
that's good.
yes.
Yeah. I'm sure there's watershed people from Meeker, that one too.
Joe Norman.
Hand ready.
All right. Well, those were my issues. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, move to approve a resolution to submit, adopt, and implement the comprehensive watershed plan allowing the South Fork one watershed, one plan to move to the next phase of the planning process.
A motion by Commissioner Johnson,
Second.
a second by Commissioner Schiefelbein. Is there any further discussion on the on resolution 2334 to submit and adopt, implement South Fork Crow River Watershed Comprehensive Watershed Plan? Hearing no further discussion, Corey, would you take the roll?
Commissioner Olberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Bredesen,
Yes.
Commissioner Schiefelbein,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt.
Yes. All right. And then we will recess as county board and convene as county ditch authority. Thank you, Monica.
Yeah.
You did it. You did it.
Yeah.
Give him his shoes back.
That's cute. Oh, hi, Barb.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So you, as convened as the county ditch authority, I have before you good news that we can pay off some loans. We,
Good
you know, of
portion.
course, do some collection through the October, November settlement. November being kind of a larger one because that's our ag land settlement. So today I have $165,000 of loan payment that we can retire, bringing us closer to, the 265 remaining. But part of the remaining, issue always has been and continues to be, joint ditch 52, as you see on the chart above there, that one, takes time to recover that. We did have a large sale, and they retired their assessment along with collections. I likely will be back at the next meeting. There are a couple of projects, you know, lacking a ditch inspector. We weren't as aggressive this fall, but I think I have a couple systems that would likely be in the red. And of course, you know, at year end, I can't have a ditch system in the red because the audit system doesn't like that. So I will analyze collections.
Barb, Mr. Chair, if I may ask, we will have a ditch inspector starting
Ditch inspector is scheduled to start the first full week in January.
Okay, good.
And we've been in communication with him already because people are aware that he's coming on board and already asking him questions. And we discussed that earlier today, that he's not on staff, and that is not really appropriate. We haven't brought him up to speed. But Phil and I are working through the interim, and with the billing, it's been a little interesting. Got to allude to the fact that we don't have one, but it's gonna work out. He'll have his feet on the ground, that whole, excuse me. The other thing you asked that I come back and report, and that was when we were sending out our bills, where we were at with, I'm too cold or something. 3.9% of our billing was going to be collected on the tax statements. 96% was sent out for pre-bill, and I don't have a percentage of what's been collected yet. So I know you asked, what does that $100 cut off to, but that's what it is,
Did we decide on 100 or 150?
100.
It was $100.
We didn't change it. We haven't changed it.
We
for
didn't
a
change
number.
We didn't gain very many
No.
people by going up, so.
Correct.
But this will retire, someplace I read this and I can't find it now, but we're retiring some of these loans.
Correct. That entire list there. So several of them are gonna be totally zero, so you go way to the right-hand side, you're
Yep.
gonna see where there's remaining balances. But a lot of them we've been able to retire entirely. Those remaining balances have collections on multi-year. And so it'll take some time for us to recover because those jobs were larger and the impact was larger. And those taxpayers are choosing to keep them on their tax statements for 2 annual payments rather than paying them off. So once they roll them
52,
over.
huh? That's,
52
That's a big one.
is the
That was
unique
our-
one, that was really, really large.
That was your baptism by fire.
that was.
That was like day 3 of you.
Yes, it was.
We don't need another 52.
No.
Well,
No.
Ever.
All right,
Mr. Chair, I move to approve transferring funds from ditch to revenue to retire loans for county 7, 15, 17, 19, 35, 36, 41, and joint ditches 1, 14, 17, 18, and 52 in the amount of $165,000 plus interest of $4,499.08 retro for December 1, 2023.
I have a motion by Commissioner Schiefelbein,
I'll second that.
and I have a second by Commissioner Bredesen. Is there any further discussion on, repayment of the ditch revenue? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
thank you.
Thanks, Barb. And now we'll adjourn as County Ditch Authority and reconvene as County Board. And it says break time. Take 5. the show back on the road. You ready?
Yeah.
Ready?
All right, we are back. Andrew Ledson, County Administrator.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So the first thing we have today is approval of the 2024 budget and proposed property tax levy. A lot of this information you've seen before, but I'm going to run through it in more of a brief sense for anyone who might be watching the video online. So first off, when we talk about the county's budget, what we're really talking about is a combination of funds. And those funds are, they receive revenue to cover those expenses from a variety of sources, primarily property taxes, but also state revenue sharing, fees for service, federal and state grants, and or specialty places such as our opioid settlement receives money from the opioid settlements that have occurred across the country. And Family Services Building receives rent from departments and the tenants. So there's different areas, different ways that each of these funds receive their money, and then they spend money on things that are specific to those uses. So general fund is generally our general governmental expenses, law enforcement, treasurer's office, land use, my office, commissioner's expenses all come out of there. Road and bridge is public works. Human services is social services, but now also public health. Parks is pretty straightforward as parks. Solid waste is the landfill and the transfer station. Regional library is our library, and then the more specialty ones as we go through there. As we look at the 2024 property tax levy, what we are proposing is $16,826,917, which equates to a 3.74% increase in the property tax levy. This is a decrease from where we were with our preliminary levy. We were at a 4% increase, but we were able to reduce that down because we had left a buffer in there in the event that our debt service came in significantly higher than what we were anticipating. It did not, so we were able to hit this figure here. As we look at our budget as a whole, 2023, our expenses were just shy of $49 million. We're at about $50.9 million in 2024. The big difference here is primarily related to our capital projects fund. We have $9.6 million in there that is primarily going towards the remodel project. About $8.3 million of that is construction and fees related to the remodel project. We did see decreases in our general fund and road and bridge expenses, and we have an increase in the human services fund, which is largely due to the merger of social services and public health into a single fund. We do use fund balance to balance our budget. We look at it in two senses: unrestricted versus restricted fund balance. Our unrestricted is any money that we've collected that we can use for general governmental purposes. In the general fund, we are using $881,000 next year in fund balance, and that's to cover costs associated with our network infrastructure upgrades, facility remodel, staffing expenses in the sheriff's office, squad replacements in the sheriff's office, and a portion of the cost of replacing a plow truck. At the end of 2024, if our expenses and revenues come in exactly as we budgeted in 23 and exactly as they in 2024, we would have about $6.88 million remaining in unrestricted fund balance in the general fund, which is 47.6% of our revenue. That the Office of State Auditor recommends that we have between 35 and 50% of revenue, so we're still well within that range. Restricted fund balance are things that are can only be used for certain purposes. The top line one here is unanticipated interest income that we are receiving in 2023 because our investments have done significantly better than what we have budgeted. And as we've discussed going through the budget process, we're going to use $500,000 of that to go towards the remodel project to offset what we would have had to bond. We also have a number of expenses in the sheriff's office. 3 of them were coming out of that one-time public safety aid that the state is providing counties. And then the balance, $41,000 for our 911 software upgrade. The county receives E911 revenues. It's a tax on phone bills to go towards supporting 911 services. A portion of that money that we've built in reserve this year will go towards covering the cost of software upgrades for our 911 system. And then lastly, the county receives aquatic invasive species prevention aid. The AIS board had developed a fairly sizable fund balance over several years and has been working to spend that down. So we have about $1.1 million total in restricted fund balance used for next year. As we look at our significant expenditures, we're for the 2024 budget, we have the network infrastructure upgrades that I mentioned, a number of building maintenance improvements, including elevator modernizations here at the courthouse and at family services, HVAC improvements at the courthouse and family services, a new parking lot on Armstrong Avenue at the intersection with First, the over by family services, sidewalk and concrete ramp improvements at both family services and the courthouse, about $40,000 of improvements at parks across the county. The 2024 presidential election we see significant increases in our costs whenever we're on presidential election years. Same thing with midterm election years, but significantly more in presidential, so we called that one out. Public Works, we have $850,000 for pavement maintenance, $662,000 in vehicle replacements, and about $2.7 million in roadway projects. In the sheriff's office, squad car replacements outfitting is at $800,000. This number has grown significantly over the past few years due to the fact that we've been unable to even order squads, let alone receive them. 911 software upgrade I mentioned earlier, the total cost of that's anticipated to be $150,000. Armor radio replacements, we replace our armor radios, which the sheriff's office uses on a rotating basis. We have $66,000 in the budget for that, as well as $41,000 for the replacement of handguns and holsters. In the budget, we do have cost of living adjustments included in there. We also have adjustments related to our health insurance, prime health insurance pool, which is the majority of employees, on average saw about a 3% increase, and PEEP, which is the Public Employee Insurance Program, which covers law enforcement staff, actually saw a decrease this year of 2.4%. The budget includes 4 new positions: patrol deputy, patrol sergeant, heavy equipment operator, and a social worker, and reclassification of 3 positions, 2 of which are to deal with succession planning for an upcoming planned retirement. As I mentioned before, the major change in our budget this year is the merger of our social services and public health departments to a health and human services department. Completes a multi-year effort and included significant employee engagement to ensure the success of that process. So we're going to see, the intent is to see enhanced client outcomes through greater collaboration between public health and social services. And we've already seen some administrative efficiencies from this effort. So our recommended motion today is to approve the resolution approving the budget and the tax levy, and then also to approve the personnel adjustments that are included in the budget, including the recruitment of the new full-time positions.
All right. Any questions on the information that Andrew just presented?
Mr. Chair, move to approve a resolution approving the 2024 annual budget and setting the 2024 property tax levy.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Johnson
I'll second that.
and a second by Commissioner Bredesen. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'd ask Corey to take the roll, please.
Commissioner Schiefelbein,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Oberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Bredesen,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt.
Yes.
And a thank you to the 2 commissioners who worked on the budget committee and our administrator for keeping our levy at a lower rate than many of the counties that are surrounding us. So thank you.
Absolutely.
We are blessed.
Yep.
Compared. So,
Yeah, I'd like to further that with inclusion of Andrew and Sharon, and actually all the department heads, they actually see the goal on the average of what we're trying to do at Meeker with all the building and everything, and I thought they came into it with a great mindset, and it went really smoothly, so thank you, Andrew, Sharon, too.
I concur 100%. Yep. there was a lot of moving pieces in the budget.
Yep, and they understood what our goal was, and it worked pretty smoothly, I thought.
I agree. So thank you. Next item, resolution 2326, establishing salary per diem payment.
Hold on,
We
we
gotta
didn't-
do the,
we got motions on the
We've got
previous one.
one more there.
Oh,
One motion.
personnel adjustments.
We divided it into two
oh,
here.
my bad.
I'll move to approve personnel adjustments in the 2024 annual budget, including the recruitment of new full-time positions and position reclassifications.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Oberg,
I'll second that.
and I have a second by Commissioner Bredesen. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Before we move on to the next thing, I also just want to add that it is really a team effort to get the budget together. It's a process that begins in May of every year, and then you all really start to see it. If you're on the comp and class or personnel committees, you see that in early June, and then, you know, the budget committee really digs into it in July, and then from that point on, it's refining things until we get to this point. So it's a long process to get here, and our department heads do a fantastic job, and our accounting teams do a fantastic job of getting all of that together for us. Okay.
All right.
Next item is establishing the salary per diem and expense allowance for commissioners. Per request of one of your colleagues at the dais here, I put together a compensation survey of our neighbors. This is 2023 salary data, and you can see on the screen where Meeker County falls compared to each of the neighbors. We discussed a couple years ago how Candy High County moved away from using per diems. Stearns and Wright County have followed suit. Otherwise, Renville County, their salary is the closest to ours at $31,558, but they included an additional amount for the chair and vice chair. So that's what we're seeing with other counties. So we look at what we've done over the years. In the RBA, I want to note that I made an error on the percentage change from last year. When I calculated it, it rounded on me. So 1.5% is what we had done last year. Over a 10-year period, the commissioner salary has gone up 22.4% compared to 25% for our non-contract employees. The per diem hasn't changed, and the mileage continues to change based on IRS rates. The table that's included here, in addition to what we had in the RBA, I added a 1.5%, and just to even things out, I added 4% as well at the top. So, with that, I'll leave it to you for discussion.
So these salaries you're showing do not include benefits such as medical?
These salaries,
These do?
they do not. No, this is just the salary that's established.
And ours do not either, obviously.
Ours do not either. Yep.
Well, this is always difficult, so.
Yeah.
I have no interest in getting a salary change this year. I may have an interest in some different things for per diem. There's days I have 3 meetings and get paid for 1. I don't know how the rest of you feel about that. But I personally have no interest in adding a salary change on with everything that we have going on right now. But that's my opinion.
I concur.
I don't have it. The salary has not been anything, but the per diem, I think, it really only affects me in November, December, where I end up with 2 meetings a day. One at this time and then one late in the day, so.
Those per diems of our neighbors.
Did you
Like
say they were
McLeod
going
does
away from per
125 full
diems,
day and
Andrew?
75 a half.
I'm sorry, say
Half a
that.
Are they, more counties going away from per diems,
That's-
did you say? Is that the trend
Of
or
our
what?
immediate neighbors, that's what we've seen. You know,
Oh.
Candy Ohio dropped the per diems 2 years ago. Wright dropped it last year. Both of them did a more substantial
Yeah, well, look
salary
at what they're
increase.
making.
Yeah,
Yeah,
look at
no,
their.
no.
Yeah, Wright, I know, I don't remember what Candy Ohio adjusted theirs by. I know Wright adjusted theirs last year by $7,500 to account for the fact that they were eliminating the per diem.
So I look at McLeod, 125 for a full day, $75 for a half a day.
That's, and Manana Township, we went to that, and I think it's like $80
Just makes
now.
more sense to
And
me.
then if it's if you got a full day or over half a day or 2 meetings in a day, that's 125, so it.
That
that's-
doesn't happen very often for me,
no,
but
it's
Yeah, we would, so
6,
when
8
I've looked
times a
at
year.
the McLeod County language for how they do it, it's based on number of hours. So if it's over 4 hours,
Right.
then it's the 75. If it's over 4 hours, it's the 125. It can't be number of meetings.
But if
because
you
it is
go-
per day.
But if you go to an AMC meeting and you start at 8 in the morning, and you're still going at 4 in the afternoon, you're gonna get $70.
Yeah, oh yes, absolutely.
That doesn't add up to me. Then there's some days where I have a meeting, and it doesn't happen often, and it's fine, it's my job. But I might start at 6 in the morning or 7 to get where I'm at, and then I gotta get back and go to another meeting, so.
Yep.
I would rather look at that part of it if we look at anything.
Absolutely. Yeah, and what I was just trying to make clear is like if you have a meeting at 9 and then a meeting at 10.
Right,
and you're
right,
done
and
by
then you have,
11,
yeah,
that-
and you
that
haven't even
doesn't
put in
count as-
4 hours, yeah,
Exactly.
exactly,
Exactly.
exactly.
I'm fine with a split per diem, I think that's,
That would be my,
cause it's not often, but it is, there are certain times a year that it does come into effect. The only other thing I'd say on salary, if Andrew flips to our history, and if we continue to be too low, you're gonna fall behind. Somebody someday is gonna tack on 8-10%, so I mean,
well, that, for me, that will be up to the next bunch, that wouldn't be
okay,
something I would
that's
do.
just
Yeah.
a point.
I mean, they can create their own salaries. if they want to.
I'm more in that, 2% range just to kinda keep a pace that's still falling behind, but.
I would not be opposed to raising the per diem to $75 a day and $75 a meeting and $125 for a full day. And then, of course, our mileage goes according to federal.
Schedule.
Yeah.
Schedule.
Are you, when you say full day, are you alluding to if it goes over 4 hours, kind of like?
Yeah, I mean, if I have a meeting at 8 in the morning and I'm home by noon and I have an hour phone call, I'm not gonna count that as a day, because that happens at times, so. Some of it is a trust, I don't think anyone's here to abuse the system, but if somebody's attending more meetings, maybe they're entitled to a little more. I mean, you and Steve too, you go to a lot of meetings, so.
Is it an accounting nightmare to do per diems and such? Where we look at the other counties where they've gotten away from per diem and raised their salary, I'm assuming to compensate that difference?
The other thing, you take Candy High, when they did that, they took all of their committee assignments, divided them by 5.
Right, so everybody's
has the
having the
equal
same
number of
amount.
committee assignments.
But every chair, every commissioner doesn't attend the same amount of meetings, so to just lump all that together, and I'm not saying that, anything negative about that, everybody's life is different, everybody's interests are different. But unless you're willing to do that, I don't see how you lump all that together, and we can't really compare, I mean, right, that's probably a full-time job, right?
And that's what I mean.
Right?
Right.
Someone like me, I'm retired. I don't mind one bit
Correct.
having the extra committee assignment.
And I don't mind either, but there's some I wouldn't like to do, but I can't get rid of, so I'm still doing them. And there's some days I have
Thank
2
you for
meetings that
that.
day.
Thank
Yeah,
you
you're
for that.
welcome.
Yeah.
And she gets the cards.
And thank you for all
Some of us
those
just
two.
don't have
Thank you.
that. Just aren't gonna
Say,
get
Daddy.
cards.
Oh, gracious.
That's the way we were born, I guess.
Just start
Blame
luck.
genetics.
It must be genetic.
Not me. Not me.
And then we have to bear in mind too, we do have one department that gets, in our county, that gets a different per diem, and that's planning and zoning.
Right.
They are at 100.
Planning commission,
Planning commission.
planning and zoning
I'm sorry,
doesn't get a
I
commission.
phrased that
Per diem,
incorrectly.
they get
But
salary.
if they go out on an inspection or something, is that what you're talking about, or who do you mean?
Anytime they're called,
That's-
either for their regular meetings, or, so they get 100 for regular meeting, then they go to a inspection, they get 100 there.
Well, if they do a good job, I think it's well worth it, I don't think that's,
So if you move to the full day, half day, is your intent that travel would count towards that 4 hours?
what was that?
Is your intent that travel would count towards the 4 hours?
Well, I would think, yes. I mean, I think that's only fair if
I just
you know.
wanna understand the intent, cause we're gonna have to adjust the language and the resolution a bit, and so we can approve it with this amendment, and then we'll craft the specific language and sign it later.
One question on the salary as far as compared to other counties the same size. I'm not gonna vote for one, but there is a concern that I do have that, are we gonna price ourselves out of viable candidates down the line? In terms of,
That's
the
kinda
last
where-
election,
I wonder,
neither
do
of
you,
you, them were opposed. There was no one in mine,
Yes.
so
Well,
still
I'm
no
gonna-
one in mine, really.
there'll be
Kind of an
some,
empty
there'll be
suit if
plenty
you
in
call
mine,
me,
but
but-
when I did this, I had no idea what the pay was.
No.
That is not why I came forward.
No,
I know
I
that.
had
And
no
so if
clue.
it's a viable candidate, I can hardly believe that they're gonna,
Well-
because I don't care what you get,
You
you know,
don't do
you
it
don't
for
count
the
your
money.
hours on the phone, your emails, you just don't. This is part, I enjoy it, and I'm trying to give back, and I hope anybody that comes forth.
Yeah.
Did you know what the pay was when you,
Brian Larson, when
He
I
told
talked to
you?
him at great length, he told me
Yeah.
the pay was, didn't tell me a thing about per diems.
yeah,
No,
see, I didn't know any
I
of that either.
I didn't
was-
even know where we're gonna meet. So
Yes.
So I didn't know the pay for
It's a
sure.
You've done
positive
very
thing you
well
haven't
then,
been to
Daddy.
the courthouse too much.
Yeah, I know, exactly.
Well, and that's,
Jury selection.
Danny goes to my point of the 2% is $600 roughly. You know what I mean? So that's what
But-
I'm
but
saying, we're
I'm-
falling behind.
Right,
I
but
mean,
I'm gonna repeat that they are allowed to set their own wages. If they wanna come in here as a board, decide that they
oh, that's
should
fine, I
get,
just,
it's not my responsibility to keep up for them. It's my responsibility to keep up for our staff, but it's certainly not for that's how I feel about it.
Just as a differing perspective, I had a conversation with a commissioner from a county far away from us a while back, and he had said that one of the challenges he found is he was a small business owner. When he started as a commissioner, it was taking more time than he was expecting,
Right.
and that was taking away from the time that he could spend running his business. So it's impacting his income there, and he felt it wasn't making up for it, the salary that he was receiving. So he was asking kind of what we did with salaries and things like that. So different perspective.
And
but
we've
that's-
also had previous commissioners who did it for 4 years and said, this is affecting my business and I need to get back to work. So, that's decisions. I was in a position when I did this that I asked my board first. Really, I don't think they thought I'd win, so they said, and so,
Well, they knew you weren't gonna get any cards.
yeah, exactly, they already knew that, so, but I could adjust my time. But I also had to use vacation days and different things when I did
Yeah,
things, but that was a
I mean,
choice I
sure.
made. That was a choice I made.
I get business
Right.
texts and calls while I'm sitting.
Danny
there,
has
you
a
gotta wait.
business.
Could you flip back to the other
Be happy to.
screen? This chart really, it was an eye-opener for me, the other,
I'm trying to. There we go.
that one. And of course, I'm the school teacher, but,
Here we go.
just.
Vanna
This,
White.
yeah, here's the Vanna.
I was never the
get it.
teacher's pet.
Can I get a vowel?
That in the record.
If my math is correct, now, a cost of living of 3%, which we gave to the employees this year, if we did that based on our current salary, it would be an increase of $827. So, 3%, if we did a COLA, would be $827. If we were to, I used Renville as our nearest partner for a comparable, and just not even including these features or this feature, just the basic salary. If we were to come close to this, we would have to increase our salary by 15%.
Well, I don't,
15%.
certainly Candy Ojai is a whole different ballgame.
Candy Ojai.
McLeod kind of is, and Wright certainly is, so,
Yeah, this was just a shock.
yeah.
But, but just for base, I'm on the same boat. I'm not in favor of an increase. I'm perfectly content with the situation that we have for financing this position. We're doing a remodel. We have expenses. I don't care to encumber any additional onto the taxpayer, but I just thought that this information was very interesting
Well, that's where I'm
to,
going.
to see where our
I'll go back
neighbors
to
are.
my 2%
Yeah.
because we're gonna dump, at some point, somebody's gonna close them gaps. And it's gonna be a different board.
That's fine.
But that's where I'm saying at 2% at least
But I'm gonna vote my conscience
try
today,
and
so.
hold the.
Now you have a conscience?
I always have had, I never liked doing this.
No, it's not,
To say
it's
the
not.
least.
Comfortable.
And it's just not a good year for me, and we have staff to provide for, we've been short-staffed in areas. But I am in favor of a different per diem, because if I'm working harder, I think it's, right? So is that a big deal if we would change that?
I'm sorry.
Just that we
Per
change
diem.
the wording to say that we would keep our salary, but change the per diem to
That's-
75 per meeting or 100.
Or do like Granville and just go to a flat one.
Well,
And nobody's keeping track of hours and wondering.
I think
this,
that's
that,
too
and the other
much,
thing.
though. I think 100 is a lot of money.
I questioned the bookkeeping, is it a nightmare? for
Sorry,
that
I don't-
Distance,
No,
for the difference? I don't know.
I don't
From,
think so.
it's more incumbent upon you to track your time.
Yeah, I mean,
True.
we have to do that and send the thing in. and
Or
then
just
there's
do a
no-
flat dollar like we have now.
I think this way, if I go to more meetings, I deserve more money. That's all I'm gonna say. I mean, there's some of us that go to a lot more meetings, and I'm not saying anything negative about that. Everybody's day is different. Paul is retired. I have more time. I'm supposed to be retired. I'm down to 2 jobs in this one now, so it's getting better, but, yeah. Steve, you go to a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff. You spend a lot of time. I'm sure that takes away from your business, so.
Yep. No, I just wanted to make my point on the trying to keep somewhat of a pace, cause if you fall too far behind, then somebody always closes that gap. And
Well, I'm gonna make a motion, and if it doesn't get a second, that's fine. But I would make a motion that the salary stays the same of the commissioners, and, the mileage, of course, affected by the state, but we change the per diem to a full day meeting, 125, and just one meeting, $75. So that won't have a time limit on it, like right? So if we have a 2-hour meeting, now we get $70. We would get 75 instead.
Correct, yeah, so the way that, stealing language from McLeod.
Okay.
The way that it would read in the resolution is, each individual county commissioner shall be paid a per diem based on a schedule of $125 per full day and $75 per half day and or evening consisting of 4 hours or less, inclusive of travel time, to be paid by the commissioner making application, blah, 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 blah.
That's what I said.
Not blah, blah, blah.
I heard the blah, blah, blah.
The resolution that way, but Brandy.
I knew exactly what you meant.
There you go.
blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Please don't encourage to have 4-hour board meetings, 4-hour.
No, God.
Yeah, exactly.
Remember, you don't get,
Not
you don't get per diem for board meetings.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's right. I'm not in favor
Can I
of
vote?
5 hours for a work session, no.
I'm not either.
I have a motion by Commissioner Olberg and Commissioner Johnson with the second. So is there any further discussion?
Thank you, Andrew, for
That's
for
interesting.
researching
no,
that
it's good to-
information. That was
information.
very,
We
very
have to,
interesting.
we have to discuss it every year, so it's good good to have the data in front of you. so.
Yep.
Motion and a second on the per diem adjustment with the wage staying the same. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, that is a resolution, so Corey, would you take the roll, please?
Commissioner Bredesen,
Yes.
Commissioner Olberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Schiefelbein,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, since you changed the per diem to 75 for the half day, curious if the board would be interested in taking a look at the per diem that you offer to all the other boards that volunteers sit on. Right now, they're paid $70, which was aligning with the commissioners, with the exception of planning commission. It's up.
I mean.
Well, it falls in line with what your
To bring that
intent
up
was on
today,
there.
did you? I would have liked to thought about that.
We can certainly think about that and come back at a later date.
Because I think every meeting is not the same.
It's true. Okay.
It's $5, so it's not a big deal either. We can do that, I guess. It's,
Well, it falls in line with what you were
Yeah.
just.
okay. So do we have to
What
make?
your intent
Yeah,
on the
you're
rest
right.
of your
So,
motion.
yes.
You would need to make a motion.
I will make
Someone
a
would need
motion that all citizens serving on any boards would receive, their per diem will go to $75 per meeting. With the exception of the
Planning
ones that are planning commission,
And that's across the board,
across the board. Public health, whatever.
all of it.
You're gonna
Motion
second that, Julie?
by
I can second that.
Commissioner Olberg and second by Commissioner Bredesen. Any further discussion?
Is that a resolution too?
Yeah, that'll be
No.
just a voice vote.
Yeah, it can just be.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right,
So the
item C.
next item that we have are two resolutions establishing the salary for the county attorney and sheriff. The salaries are being recommended by a committee in which the board appointed, which includes Commissioner Olberg and Commissioner Johnson. The salaries are included in the RBA, the county attorney at $144,215.72, and the sheriff at $136,099.58. This is in recognition of the responsibilities that each of the offices hold, the work that's been accomplished over the past year, particularly with the short staffing in both of those offices, and the fact that both have been able to meet their major objectives. Did want to note that the figures that were in the resolution were inaccurate. They were last year's salaries. What's included in the RBA is correct, and we'll have the correct ones signed.
What's included where is correct? I was
In the
looking at-
RBA,
These were
Is
last
correct.
the
year's.
RBA is correct.
Okay.
Okay,
These
What was
were
in the
last
resolution
year's.
was last
This is
year's.
the
I neglected to
figure
update
they
it when it was
want
updating
now.
the resolutions.
Which is
That is my fault.
that
Copy and paste part.
increase.
And I just changed the 23s to 24s, and that's as far as I got apparently. Putting a lot of these
Wow.
together at once.
so I'm gonna speak to this a little bit, cause I'm sure there's some questions. Paul and I met, and Paul, you can, with Brandy, and we also, Andrew and Brian, and had long discussions about, not long, but we had a discussion about how we're gonna catch up, because they're out of steps, they have been for, right? So we were, remember a couple years ago, this wasn't the, they wanted to recreate some things, we didn't. So my goal was to get them caught up, reward them. The sheriff's office has been short-staffed, Brandy has been short-staffed for a long time.
3 years.
So we wanna get them caught up, and then next year, perhaps we can look at something a little bit different. But I think we had to go here for that reason, to finally once and for all get caught up. You can't have, for instance, the deputies, correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew, or detectives getting close to what your sheriff is making. So, same way, so that's why we did it. It's normally not my style, obviously, but I just felt it was a necessary step to take it this time. And next year, hopefully, we can do something a little bit different, and it isn't gonna, cause they're gonna be caught up. So maybe we have to do you know what I'm saying, Andrew, or Paul, if you wanna throw anything
Mr. Chair,
in?
we did discuss then, and we were gonna look at some ideas to have a little bit more systematic way, so.
For next year.
For next year and
Yeah.
years to come.
But I think if we don't get caught up, we're just gonna be fighting that battle,
So,
What was their percent that you ended up voting on?
9% increase.
Is that in there?
No.
No,
It's in the Devil's in the details, I think.
we actually started out with 7, and I'm the one that decided 9.
How did you, that's my question, is last year, I think you guys, was it Paul and Steve were on the committee? And you guys mirrored what, the non-union people who are at the highest step were getting if they got their merit. If their full merit, which was 5% last year?
Yes.
Yes.
5%.
They got 3% for COLA and 2% for merit, right? Or is it
So
vice
it's-
versa?
So the merit adjustment would have been, oh yes, you're right, it was 3% for COLA, 2% for merit, you're right.
Okay, and then this year, for our top people, it's 3% COLA, 4% merit, which we moved up
Yes.
the merit, part of the budgeting process.
Yep.
My question is, why did you not try to mirror what all these other top ones are to keep it consistent?
Because we still have to get, we have too much disparity. When you have the sheriff making, I'm not gonna get into the roles because I don't, you can speak to it better than me, Andrew, probably.
The concern that the sheriff raised was, particularly the sergeants, when they are, receiving overtime, their overtime was getting close to what the sheriff was, their aggregate, salary was getting close to what the sheriff was making. That was the internal comparability concern that he raised.
and then,
I'm not arguing what they're getting in terms of whether it's fair, in terms
I
of, because they're all
understand.
shortage, But I like the consistency that you can tell across the board in the county that this is what you can get at the top rate, rather than putting other individuals where they may be perceived one way or another by other counties, county employees also.
So is
I
this
thought it was
9?
cleaner last year myself.
And I would agree with you, but we still kept getting behind. There was still too much disparity. That's right. That's why I wanted to reward them also. You know, they've been working short-staffed. But if we don't get them up above, how can we ever start a new pattern of the 3 and 2 or whatever? That was am I saying this right, Paul?
We really looked at the responsibility level of these two positions. You have a sheriff's office where, yes, maybe the sheriff isn't directly on duty 24/7, but is directly on duty 24/7. The number of employees they have, the amount of responsibility that follows, all of those things, then we looked at the other counties also.
Absolutely.
Wanted to have a fair comparison with counties that were of the approximate size of us. It's hard to find an exact apple to an apple. I think what you're saying, Danny, though, is gonna be much easier to follow in the future now,
Absolutely.
because we have brought them to that point. Yes, it took a little extra to bring them to that point. And the other small factor is these are elected officials in lieu of department heads or our administrator or something like that, so.
Does this 9% increase reflect a 3% COLA and a 4% potential employee performance review? Would that be
part of the-
above and beyond?
No, that's
9%?
it. That's a
No,
substitution.
This is their new salary.
Okay.
So,
Obviously, we don't do a review of them, the constituents will.
okay, that's not,
Just like
they
they
don't
will
get
with
that
us.
4% thing,
No.
but they do get the 3% COLA,
That's
That's
inclusive.
included.
and that's included in the 9%.
So it's just 2% more than,
These two positions are not based on those other categories, but those categories are
Part of the
part of
determining
the
factor here.
overall equation and,
Sure.
and the analysis.
I mean, this has been a tough couple of years, and I just think now it's gonna be easier as we go. And I hope something is worked out, so we don't get put in these positions.
It was long discussions with both of them, you know, because we wanted to be fair. We did not want to be extravagant, but we wanted to be fair. So that, you know, the respective duties and responsibilities were reflected in their salary.
Are the salary totals, are them, reflective and, I mean, where do they fall?
Among our neighboring,
Other counties of our,
We,
was all that taken in?
so yeah, we
mean,
did take a look at some external
comparables.
data. I can't say that I went back and saw what this would compare to. It's difficult at this point to say this is what this compares to, because what we're looking at primarily is last year's data. We don't know what those salaries are being adjusted to.
Today.
I know the county attorney, there was some surrounding county attorneys that were certainly making.
No, I just was, I mean, I'm just asking, that was all taken.
This is just, it was rough. It was, I mean, I didn't have any issue making the motion. I think it's fair, and I think it's gonna straighten out the market for them, and then we can go from there. So,
It
All
wasn't-
right, no, I just wanted to know what the logic was behind it, and like I said, I thought last year was pretty clean.
it was.
That way, everybody's kinda on I know they're elected, and I know they're short-staffed, but just about everybody now is short-staffed in the county.
I'm also gonna
So-
say this, I'm not always in the same, lane as that, because, and I agree, the 3 and the 2 or the 3 and the 4, whatever we're doing,
Yeah.
it's fine. But I also think that if you have, and I'm not talking about you, Andrew, but say you have a CEO that, not that you don't do a good job, but say you have a CEO in a company that,
Digging, but.
I know,
Keep talking.
I don't get cards.
I might not listen anymore, I'm just gonna watch Andrew's face.
He's gonna like what I'm about to say. I actually don't believe that they necessarily need to have the same increase as, we value all our employees, but the truth of the matter is, we need a CEO probably worse. I am digging myself. You know what you know what I'm trying to say. So even though I know what you're saying, Danny, like it's, it was even, but I think there's certain positions that need to be treated a little differently.
when you get to the top of the pay scale, which we have the administrator, social services director, county attorney, and sheriff. There are 4 top paid individuals in the county, and then you start to say, well, we're gonna go a couple percentages above what, you know, the others have an option for. If you do the math here, that's a $12,000 increase for each of these 2 positions. That's a big jump. If I were a,
Yes, it is.
you know, a social worker, or if I were a, you know, maintenance person, or, you know, one of the
Well, so
administrative.
then, but, so here's what they can do. They can certainly throw their hat in the ring and run, well, they can't probably run for county attorney.
Nope.
Or sheriff.
What's your education?
When is
Probably
your
can't
term
run.
up anyway? I didn't see the last publication.
So it's fine to say you're treating everybody the same, but that, I think this was a big leap, but I'm gonna I'm proud of what we did, and I think it was a necessary step, and next year's gonna be easier, so.
We better,
Move on.
move to do
Mr.
something
Chair,
here other than
move
talk.
to approve resolution establishing the salary for the county attorney for 2024. Can I do both of them at the same time?
Yes, you can, or he'll forget to do the other one.
Move to approve resolution also
Can he do that?
establishing the salary for the county sheriff for 2024.
Second.
So it's 2 resolutions.
I'll second the second one.
I
He seconded the first one.
I have a motion, for resolution 2337 and 2338, and a second. Do we need,
Do the dollar figures.
do we have to
It's-
have individual motions and second, and
It's a resolution.
We don't have to. The reason we did was, in the past, we've had a commissioner decide to abstain from one of them, and that's the reason why we put them in here.
Oh.
You can approve them.
Well, he seconded it.
You can
now, so
approve
he
it
probably-
in an omnibus fashion if you would like.
all right, well, we're gonna take them together. So this is we have a motion and a second to approve both resolutions, 2023-37 and 2023-38. Is there any further discussion?
So
Hearing none.
Well, so the
Nope.
figures printed here, I know there was at least with my paperwork, there was, a discrepancy. But for 2024, then, the attorney would be 144,215.72. And the
We don't have to,
2024
but
salary
we're
for
gonna
the
do it
sheriff
anyway.
would be $136,099.58. Is that the correct?
That's accurate.
Figures, those are the correct figures, all right.
All right,
All right, is there any other discussion? Hearing none. Corey, would you please take the roll?
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes to the first resolution, yes to the second resolution.
well, you can't do that.
We're taking them together. The motion was both of them.
I know, it was kind of a joke, okay?
It was apparently a bad one.
Process matter, Pauls.
Oh,
Then you
Commissioner
wonder why.
Olberg,
yes,
Commissioner Schiefelbein,
Abstain.
Commissioner Bredesen,
Yes,
how can you
Commissioner
abstain when
Schmidt.
you seconded
Yes.
the motion?
You
can't-
can,
Because we put them together.
you can,
Put them together.
you can second the motion and abstain.
You can? Okay, I'm
Can't
good.
ya?
If you're fine with it, I'm fine with it. Where's our parliamentarian?
Let's move on.
Charlie?
well, yeah,
Then you
I'd have to
wonder
look
why
that
the
up.
chair is making mistakes on this stuff. Guys, come
you're
on.
doing just
We gotta be
great.
careful, he's going for the longest meeting yet.
What? I
Of the
thought I
month.
had
No, I
that.
think Julie's
Yeah, you
still,
do.
Julie's still
I
holding
thought
that
I-
We
record.
got a lot of time for that, but.
This is
All
gonna
right.
turn into a hundred
Work
and
on it
twenty-five
next
dollar meeting.
Oh, good. Oh, that
Kid-
doesn't take
kidding,
effect
folks,
until
kidding. Oh,
January.
yeah, that's right, and I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Some of us do have an 11:30 meeting. Yeah, so, all right.
All right.
Next
like that.
resolution's authorizing the purchase of real property from School District 465, Litchfield School District. This is for the annex of the Family Services Building, the old schoolhouse. We're at a point now where they've adopted a resolution. It's our turn to adopt a resolution. We are working with them on negotiating a purchase agreement. A draft has been given to them. They're reviewing it. Once that gets done, we will sign it, and the goal is to close this in February.
So is the dollar or not? That's what I didn't
Dollar is the
understand
dollar.
from this language. So they're not gonna come back and say, well, now you gotta give us $100,000.
The dollar.
When it said negotiated by the county board chair
So
and administrator.
what we're
I'm like,
negotiating is other language in the purchase agreement. So we've
So
talked
the
in
price
general
is the
about-
price though.
Exactly.
We got a
Talking-
really good deal because of inflation. The dollar is worth a lot less right now, so we got a cheap.
Heck of
About
a deal.
85 cents.
Heck of a deal.
What we're negotiating is other terms of the purchase agreement. What we are giving them is, right now, they hold responsibility for asbestos abatement throughout the building. We are going to take that responsibility from them as we take full ownership. And they, right now, have an equity stake in the building. If we were to turn around and sell the building tomorrow, they would get 25% of the value of that. They are gonna give that to us, so we will hold full equity. Those are the types of things that we're talking about.
What is meant by annex?
The old cafeteria, where we're gonna put land.
So, that's what I assumed.
Yeah.
So the theater is still,
Theater is the still same relationship. The county owns it. It is leased by the school district.
and we're gonna leave that as is,
That as is.
So now the entire building, from
Except-
front door to
ownership.
back door,
except the theater. No, we own the theater.
we own
Owner.
We
everything.
let them use it.
They lease it.
We have a lease
Lease.
agreement, but
Yep.
now we own the
So they're a
entire
tenant,
building.
just like Woodlands or.
Do they actually pay a lease on
do.
that? Okay.
And we own the properties too, because now we're going to establish a parking lot on,
I believe that the rest of the parcel we already owned. It may just be, I don't know exactly what the footprint of that last piece is, whether it's outside of the existing footprint of the building or if it's just the building itself.
okay.
And if you guys want, we could save the taxpayers some money, we could each chip in 20 cents to pay the dollar.
No. I'm doing it. I think you can.
Put in my 2 dimes worth.
Mr. Chair, I move to
All right.
approve, I move to approve a resolution authorizing the purchase of real property from Litchfield School District 465.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Oberg and a second by Commissioner Schiefelbein to authorize 2339 for the purchase of the property from the school district. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Corey, would you take the roll, please?
Commissioner Bredesen,
Yes,
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes?
Commissioner Olberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Schiefelbein,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt.
Yes. Next item.
The last
I'm glad
item
that's
is,
done. That was
I
bugging
received a request from a couple of different commissioners to write a letter expressing gratitude to Meeker Cooperative Light and Power Association for the work they've done to expand broadband throughout our county. And that letter is included in your packet.
This was something Commissioner Johnson, myself,
And a very good idea, but
well, we were in I'm trying to think what meeting it was.
It was with Klobuchar's representative.
Oh, that day that the representative from Klobuchar's office was here, and then Meeker was in there, and we were talking broadband, and that's always a big topic, and we brought up the fact that we're thankful when we're in our AMC meetings and stuff, it's not, we don't have an issue really of broadband, and now with federal funding, broadband, Meeker has been able to capitalize on some of that, so really, the county itself dodged a major expense with.
yeah, you heard a lot of counties that were
Oh,
taking
man,
their
that's-
COVID money or whatever and
Benton
putting
County's a perfect example.
Candy
I mean, they
Ojai,
use
had, right?
Most of their
Yeah, this was a good idea.
ARPA money for.
So then, afterwards, we were visiting with Meeker and Electric, and he just said, you know, it'd be nice if you would let the board of directors
Absolutely.
knows that. So that's where the letter came from, and so I just,
Mr. Chair, move
thank
to
you.
approve a letter expressing gratitude to Meeker Cooperative Light and Power Association for their efforts in providing broadband internet service in Meeker County.
a motion by Commissioner Johnson
I'll second that.
and second by Commissioner Bredesen. Is there any further discussion on the letter? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Administrators report.
I have nothing that is so urgent that we need to talk about.
And I would say that, I don't know if we wanna do commissioner updates, or has everybody had enough?
I don't care. I would like to recommend, based on what we learned at AMC, there's MCIT has offered all of us a chance to take the cybersecurity, and it is recommended for commissioners. It's on 13th, it's 2 hours, 10 to 12 webinar. It might be well worth our
Will
while.
somebody send an email out about that,
We
please?
got it from MCIT today.
We did, it's in our thing. So is that a requirement? I wanna talk about that at some point in time. If are we having a policy on requirement for cybersecurity training? Because this is becoming a nightmare with a lot of, and we're working on that.
We require people to do cybersecurity training right now. That's what the know before training is.
But what are you gonna do to me if I don't?
Well, there's not a lot I can.
That's the part I'm talking about.
I could be a broad example of that.
No,
The four of you could censure one of you. That is the-
I take every training. I'm so proud when I report something and I get that little box. I'm like, yes, I did it right.
Did it again?
You're gonna get a Christmas card.
You
from
could
Home
do
Depot.
mine if you want, then you could feel twice as good. I just forward those to you, then, Beth.
Just very briefly on the issue, on Tuesday morning, we saw a general session from a cybersecurity expert who worked for the White House for a period of time, late 90s, early 2000s, and he showed us some really powerful things. One of them was he went actively on the dark web and showed us company data that was for sale and was going to be released and dumped within a period of days. And then they give you teasers and examples. Pulled it up and it was a handwritten note of doctor's notes from the hospital that had been stolen from.
Scary.
Like it's private, truly private data that's out there. That companies and counties and all these entities that have ransomware, the hundreds of thousands of dollars that are being asked for, and the tens and tens of thousands of dollars that are being given to these
Are they
companies.
paying, are they paying?
There are several who do.
You're over a barrel.
What he had shared
What
with
do
us
you
is
do?
that 95% of the time, if you pay, they release your data back to you. That they,
Wow.
they have some ethics, which
My
is
sister said it's kinda weird. She kinda said the same thing, but there's no guarantee they're gonna.
no guarantee. It's no guarantee. So and of course the goal is you get it back without paying, but it was frightening.
But if you don't open any emails,
You never
then there is no.
you
That's more secure than anybody else.
Danny, I never thought of that.
Yeah, I'm the most secure one here. Sorry, everybody out there.
Correct me if I'm wrong, I think the Minnesota Township Association got ransomed for $800,000.
They did.
And they
They
paid
did.
it.
Oh, while,
They took it out of reserves and paid it.
not 6 months ago, somewhere.
It's not as far away from us as we think.
Do we wanna give a quick report on CCT? What's the fund?
Why don't we,
Why don't we just do it?
let's do her.
Let's just do
Keep
it.
going, Paul, you
All right.
started.
Paul and I
Paul's
kinda got the
first.
same meeting, so
I'll just,
Andrew, if you got a scoot here.
Yeah,
we gotta scoot with him.
we'll do
It's
this
with you
quickly.
two.
We gotta scoot with him, it's
Oh.
building.
Yes,
Okay,
Oh.
It's at 11:30.
it's at 11:30.
we're good.
Right here. We don't have to leave.
We're good.
Everyone else does.
CPT last week, cash balance, we've got
Aye.
$2,588,000, sitting good. We approved a budget for next year of $2,949,500. We're showing again a net profit of 51,000, but, we have a miscellaneous income that, you can't predict, you don't know, that has always far exceeded the budget. We've already talked about the one plan, one watershed, so that one was done. If you wanna read a little bit about what happened at that meeting, it's in the Hutchinson Leader, front page. That one got a little testy, as I think I've shared with most of you already. It was very testy. CCT, this is kind of the one that Beth was referring to, I think all of you will wanna know about. Some of their buses are starting to show up. The price increase is about $50,000 a bus. From when we ordered them, that's our 20 buses or 2021 buses we just now are going to get.
They're 2020.
Yeah, okay. They're hoping to have all the buses in by, March of this year. We'll be caught up on buses. Meeker had a unrestricted savings account balance of $145,000. We may have shared this with you before, but Beth and I, spoke with Ron Dingman and, what's that gentleman's name, the other one?
Eric Manswick.
Yeah, Eric, from the city, and it was decided, they have wanted to incorporate this into their money at CCT. It was originally paid in as extra money to CCT.
Paid in as extra money from the city and the county.
Yep.
Before we joined with CCT and just had Meeker. And part of the thing was that we got to keep that money to use toward Meeker. And they've been wanting to infiltrate it into their money, as I call it, and we've been holding off. So, we came to a resolution about it.
Yes. So what we did at the last board meeting was, Beth and I and Eric were there. We offered to pay the local share of the two buses that are about to come in, because they're gonna be assigned here in Meeker. That's about $60,000, $30,000 a bus is our local share. The van that was paid for by Prime West as a grant, has to have a method of payments for the riders, because that cannot be in any way paid for by MnDOT. Any of those rides cannot be paid for by MnDOT. So we set aside $10,000 for payment for rides for folks who can't afford it. And then the balance, we will take back to the county. So
So the balance is probably our half. What did we say it was?
about $70,000, so 35.
35.
And our
So,
local share each year, I believe, Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong, is $20,500.
That's what it is for the.
so for the next year or two, we will have our appropriation. So
Okay.
I
And
was
that
kinda happy with that
takes
result.
care of the money. It's done, there'll be no more.
And then they don't
argument
have to point it out to us every
every
time
time,
they.
yes. So, and then the, conference in the cities, was very good, informative. Cybersecurity was exceptionally interesting, and AI. At some point, the board minutes will be converted from audio to text, and you can put them into AI and say, create minutes, and it'll blow out minutes.
That makes me
You know, you have to
nervous.
Yeah, it does.
That makes me real nervous.
But anyway, that's it.
And all I've been kinda lazy, I guess. I had CCT and that was it. So Paul all reported on that, so good. So Julie, you're
Oh,
up.
should I go next?
All right, yep.
Okay. Last reports were given the 21st of November. That afternoon, Tuesday, November 21st, I had the U of M Extension meeting at the fairgrounds. We were presented with the fact that some committee members, their terms will expire. New folks will be joining us at the first of the year. The Extension educators gave their end-of-year reports. I just want to say we are very fortunate to have truly excellent educators. They work as a team, they complement one another, their expertise work together creatively. That's a really good committee to serve on. I'm enjoying that.
Sounds a lot better than the commissioners, huh?
Well, we do what we can.
We just antagonize each other.
Yeah,
And our
Part of
administrator
the reason I'm here.
it's an excellent
and our
committee.
attorney.
So, but the committee had their end-of-year annual performance review session. We went through each person, and we gave high marks to all of the extension personnel. We approved the 24 calendar, the 24 first quarter activities calendar, and the budget. Then on Tuesday, the 28th, we had a work session here in the boardroom. Then on Thursday, the 30th, that evening, we had the budget and levy meeting in this room. Several folks from the county joined us. It was informational, and there were a few folks that had some questions, so that went well.
And
And
we
I-
gave Schiefelbein's card out and asked, have you gotten any phone
we
calls?
made sure
Any?
Anybody?
everybody-
Yeah.
Just for my brothers. That's normal.
That's normal, but I wanted to really thank Andrew for his exceptional
He
presentation
did,
that evening.
Absolutely.
Very professional, well done. It's material that is not easily understood, and Andrew did a wonderful job explaining and highlighting that for our
I should have been
audience.
there. I
Yep.
could have seen
Actually,
this
he
part
got-
of Andrew.
It was, I was a little nervous. It was more people than I've seen at that meeting. They actually stayed.
I think combined.
Yeah, yeah. So
So
you did a good job,
Yep, we
excellent
had
job.
a lovely audience, and it was well done, so thank you, Andrew, for that. I always tell Andrew, thank you for making the
It was
rest
a
of us.
well-run meeting, too.
Thank you for making the rest of us look good. Put it that way.
Forget about
was-
that, right?
It was well done, yes. Then yesterday, I had the AIS, Aquatic Invasive Species meeting. We discussed the calendar, the budget goals, and approved 13 grant applications.
What was that?
And now today, here we are for a regular meeting, and that concludes my report.
All right, thank you, Julie.
Yep.
Danny?
Oh, jeez. I just was informed I missed another committee meeting. Saved the county $70. We did have a class and comp meeting. Steve and I, it was actually one of the bigger ones where we had 5 positions and most of it is merging. So it's actually probably a good thing for the county. And that was about it. I mean, you'll get more details on that later on.
Well, yeah, we're gonna bring that to the next meeting on the 19th, the changes.
Yep, but I thought they're all good and they're, like I said, combinations, and in the long run, it'll probably save us some money. And then I plan on going on the going to the planning and zoning next week to talk solar and feedlots. Yep,
Time and where is that?
I don't know,
Oh.
but I plan on going.
Meeting starts at 5.
You
Right
find
in
out,
this
send
room.
me a card, will you?
Yeah, I will.
Because that's next week now?
What's the date on
Day,
that?
day and time?
Planning and zoning is next Tuesday, the 12th.
At,
We all get a
5
letter on
PM is
that,
when
or?
the meeting's
Well-
just then.
No, remember, there can only be 2 of us there anyway,
what?
or we
No,
would
I
have a
don't think
quorum.
that's true at those.
If,
If you talk,
Open to the
there
public?
can only
Talk.
be 2.
yes.
So
2 can
please
participate.
But you can listen.
No one
you
show
can
up,
go and-
'cause I
I've
wanna
been there when
talk.
there's been 4.
You can listen, but once if everyone starts participating and taking part in the discussion, we have now violated.
Well,
the
what
open
2 are
meeting law.
going? Danny's going and who else?
I'm not going.
It's Tuesday night?
You're going, Julie?
I'd maybe like to go to that, 5
Okay.
o'clock?
I'll stay
I
home.
believe that's when they are. I'll double
And
check.
Stay
that's
home in my
zoning?
recliner.
It's planning and zoning, yes.
You're darn
Or
right.
planning commission.
5 o'clock zoning, and that's in this
Yeah, I
room.
did.
Okay.
All right. All right, well, pretty much I had, Grove City Care. Everything seems to be moving along pretty smoothly there. They do have MMDC is gonna schedule another visit over there. They have some folks that couldn't attend the last, tour, if you will, of the facility, so they have some folks, Eric Day is bringing another group in, to look at it. Other than that, work session, budget and levy, we talked about already. Class and comp, Danny touched on, and yeah, basically with the reorganization of, public health and social services, there's a reconfiguration of employees and stuff, so. that'll-
Auditor, recorder, that's the
auditor,
other big
recorder.
one.
So I mean, those positions, and we'll have more of that coming up on the 19th. AMC, they had, public safety obviously is where I land on a lot of that. I did attend the PFM and talk about finances and projections and different things. Danny Nelson was there, who works with us, and Sharon is on the board there at PFM too.
Yep.
Representative, so, good discussion with them on the future of county finances and
Real
things like
bright.
that. Yeah, good presentation there. But at public safety, we had a interesting meeting, got all our policies passed, some of them, some of the amendments we made are on things that we already were able to accomplish, that we thought we were gonna have to work on more in 2024, so we were able to pull a few of those items off. Had an interesting discussion, during our session. We had a presentation by a county attorney, that, Metro County, Ramsey County, and tested
Randy's
the,
colleagues.
tested the patience of a lot of people in the room, if you will.
I'll betcha.
But, just on different views, but, it's, you know, regardless, you gotta hear everybody out, and some of the things there, I mean, of course, the biggest issue I have, I guess, some of the topics that they present, and I'll go as far as say, prioritize or seem to push, from, Ramsey County, or not, I shouldn't say Ramsey, but a larger county, a metro county, just don't apply out here. I
Give me
mean,
an
it's-
example.
I would say demographics is the biggest issue.
But I
One of
mean,
the things that
What are
they
their priorities compared to ours?
prioritize is, well, the topic was, and I'm gonna get the phrase wrong, you pulling over vehicles for expired tabs,
They're not gonna do that anymore.
license, or headlight out, different things. I can't remember what they call them, non-substantial stops, or there's a phrase for it, but,
Nonviolent crimes,
well, that's.
like running
that's
into
a separate-
Target and emptying the shelves and you just let them go, that kind of thing. That's what they're
But-
doing.
But the main topic was on pulling over, so profiling.
Profiling.
There you go.
Profiling is,
Of course.
but they have a specific category of stops. And out here that
They don't do that.
demographics are different, and we don't have them issues.
Well, they're a little
But
more
it-
liberal.
But then it changes the whole flip side of how they wanna police
Everybody.
the folks. So that is gonna be a major, discussion point, moving forward, and it's challenging.
Yep.
So me speeding, I won't be pulled over?
I wouldn't say that.
That wasn't in the list.
Oh, I was gonna say, I thought I
Headlight,
was profiled
Be
that
yourself
way.
warned.
Well, I'm kinda sick of that.
Non-public,
And
is it non-public safety traffic stops?
there you go.
Wouldn't
And
have mentioned
that, you
that.
can't lead with that as an item, but, you know, in talking to, you know, and you gotta remember, Public Safety Policy Committee probably has 40 retired police
Right.
officers in there, or
I bet they
detectives,
were
or,
booing.
and, well, now we're going deeper into the conversation where I'm,
It's all right.
Somebody's headlights or blinkers aren't working, that's
Well-
not public safety?
well, no.
No?
To lead with that as a reason to pull them over, is what they're saying. So what it comes down to is, in talking to some of the folks afterwards, it's that, you know, people, criminals, if you will, tend not to take care of their vehicles.
Exactly.
Tend, you know,
Yeah.
there's different reasons that you pull a vehicle over for
Right.
those reasons.
Yep.
You know, where from the metro standpoint, it's more targeted towards the racial profiling and things like that. So
There's
you know,
always a
it's
reason.
always
It's always a reason.
a different, interesting conversation, and, like I said, we're gonna have more discussion on it in the future on public safety.
Must be the
but,
buildings.
Okay.
Overall, a good AMC, Gordon Graham was there again,
And
you know,
we had the election,
had the election yesterday.
and Mary Jo McGuire, our former
Past
president of AMC,
president.
past president, hugged everybody that came on stage with the exception of one person.
He's not huggable.
I get that, I take that as a compliment.
Not everybody is huggable.
Well,
I don't like being hugged.
There you go, Danny probably isn't
I'm
huggable.
like,
Personal
Brandy's
space.
probably not huggable.
And I was disappointed that Rick Anderson did not win the treasurer.
Rick didn't win.
no,
Who did?
had three, Lisa Folby out of
There
Sherburne.
was three. Oh,
He's
there
been
was
on the
three people
finance committee
running.
for 8 years.
Was Lisa an ex-representative, state rep or something?
She was, yes.
State rep and state senator.
Yeah, yeah. Which actually, I did not know that. I've known her for 5 years, but she was on CMJTS. with us.
She still is.
So our current president is Neil Galswick out of
Cass.
Cass. There we go.
Exactly.
And he was retired in law enforcement, and he was in public safety meeting. He's on that, which Mary Jo McGuire was in that public safety policy meeting too. And we actually had a commissioner get up and leave during the presentation
Don't
because
blame
he
him.
was frustrated with the way things were going. So we had an interesting.
That solves a lot of
And
problems.
it's always,
doing
I don't know
that.
how I'm always
And you know,
the chair when things like that happen.
I don't know either.
as the grand
You're not huggable.
There you go. There's probably.
finale, I went out to put my luggage in a car, my car was gone.
Did it get towed? Did Andrew have it towed?
So I came walking back in with a great deal of frustration. 'cause I
I'll
couldn't
bet.
find it. Steve comes walking along, I said, would you mind driving me around?
Oh, this is a Seinfeld episode.
Say no.
Yeah.
He couldn't want to fish.
He
You
couldn't find
guys.
his.
Exactly.
We couldn't find his.
Where
car.
was it?
You're in
Well,
the wrong parking
And,
lot?
and I was,
This is kind of, you might not
No.
wanna say this while the cameras are rolling. This is
Good
kinda
point, let's
scary.
get let's
Yeah.
multi-cameras.
no, the levels crisscross in the middle, so if you're either, when you come in on the elevator, you can either go up to 4 or down to 3, but then on,
Andrew sat back down to hear this. I know. I gotta hear
I
this.
found my car immediately.
Of course you did. Yours is small.
I did until Paul was.
Those
and
rows
Paul
have
was-
letters and numbers, don't they? Don't those rows have letters?
I parked next to the door in which I came off the
Gotta
elevator.
take a
Easy
picture.
enough.
So anyway, long
The
story short.
panic button, that's
We
a
went,
good way
we
to find
found my car and then went and
do that
drove
every
around till we
time.
found Paul's.
No.
Hey,
But
we
it,
lost quick.
Anyway,
Walk out
I
the
have
parking
just,
good
I
one.
have just one more thing. Commissioner Joe Tashney, who was our District 2 commissioner for 4 years, his wife Ann passed away Sunday,
Oh.
so, she was a wonderful person and so is Joe, so let's keep,
yeah,
their family in prayer.
I hadn't heard
Yeah.
that, so I appreciate that. All right, with that, I'll